folks. Well, live again. I can't even pretend, right? I actually started pretty much bang on time, and I hadn't pressed the go live button. So we're about 7 minutes into there, and we weren't even live. Anyway, so sorry about the delay. But yeah, I'm Andy, ElectricGeek, if you're joining us the first time. And tonight I'm joined by Ellis of Top Movie Recall. How's it going, mate?
It's going well for the second time, mate. Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good.
Good, man. Good. I'm a total spoon. Anyway, I'm going to go over the same jokes I did a minute ago, and hopefully they'll work just as well. But yeah, I bought this t-shirt for this stream tonight. Big Bowie fan. And I was gutted when I came into the studio and seeing that Ellis had this even better Batman pullover on, man. So
represent. Keep
You're
love.
winning already. It's not a good sign for this head-to-head, mate. You're winning already. So yeah. So just before we kind of get into it and find out a little bit more about Ellis and talk about Tom Cruise and whatnot. Basically, this is Geek Chat 3. So Ellis is my third guest on this series, and this one's themed. So it's going to be our top 10 Tom Cruise films. Believe me, it's difficult as a Tom Cruise fan to pick a top 10. Ellis, I'm sure you'll testify to that, mate. We've been trying to do it for the last week, and it's hard going. But yeah, we ended up getting our top 10 films, and what we decided to do was try and match them into kind of head-to-head. So for each place, 10th, 9th, 8th, etc., we've come up with a kind of theme for the head-to-head to hopefully make the debate a bit more interesting, and we'll hopefully enlist the help of you guys watching and hitting up the comments to kind of help us make our minds up as to what should win out and what should win that slot. So that's how this is going to kind of work. I should say at this point that the lists are obviously subjective. We're not going for what are the critically best films. We're going for what films Ellis and I enjoy watching the most, and from Cruise's back catalogue. So that's pretty much how this is going to work. If you've been following my channel, Instagram, or my most recent video, you'll know that I plugged that I was going to give this away on 4K. So just quickly, I thought I've just passed 500 subscribers there. Massive shout out to all the subscribers and everyone that's helped support the channel. Ellis, cheers, mate. I know that you've
congratulations, mate.
From early on. It's got deja vu there, funny enough. So I'm going to give this away tonight. It's a proper demo disc. I'd probably put it in my top 10, top 5 of demo discs if I get around to doing that video. Awesome native 4K, Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, and just an awesome Tom Cruise flick. It may or may not be in the top 10. But yeah, if you want a chance to win this, all you have to do is hit up the comments with what your favourite Mission Impossible film is, and just end it with #Fallout. That way I'll know that you've entered into the competition, because I appreciate some people might already have this. But yeah, I'll leave it until a week today, so next Wednesday, and I'll just draw names out of a hat, and I'll get in touch with the winner, and I'll update it on the channel. So yeah, get in it to win it. Cracking 4K to have, especially if you've not got it. Right. What do you think was better, Ellis, this first time or the second time?
Oh, mate, we're okay. We're getting there. We'll get through it.
I don't know. I think the first time was better. I think the nervous energy was better, but hey, he's never seen it.
The second time was better. Positive thinking, mate.
Right, okay. Right, so before we get into the top 10, Ellis, tell us a bit about yourself, your channel, and how you kind of got into this whole Instagram, YouTube space.
So, basically, about just short of a year ago, I started an Instagram account, Total Movie Recall, and it was just I already had a pretty large collection as it was, have done for my entire life, from having VHSs, getting rid of them, restocking them with DVDs, then getting rid of them and getting Blu-rays. But none of my friends in my close circle have the same sort of passion for movies that I do. So it just goes on wasted years. And my partner, she's had enough for the last 10 years. So there's only so much you can push on your partner. But yeah, so Instagram was just a gateway just to get some conversation going online. Then yeah, about 3 months ago, I think now, I started my own little YouTube channel, but it's basically just a platform for a long form podcast as such. It's in its infancy at the moment, baby steps. I'm just working out the kinks. I'm not sure exactly 100% what avenue I want to go down yet, whether it's just reviews or discussion on.
It's been really good so far, mate. I wouldn't just say that. I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
Thank you, mate. Thank you so much. And it's not all on me as well. It's I've got to thank my good friend Badger as well, who's been like a massive thing of support. Like he's been on all my videos, and he's probably going to be on all the videos going forward, just because I feel like we have a good dynamic. Little bit.
He's definitely do. Yeah, it works well.
Yeah, opposing views sometimes. Sometimes there's a shock there. Like Badger, if you're watching, mate, I'm still going to get you for. You need to watch Lethal Weapon, mate. You need to get that one in the bag. Get that one watched.
Has he not seen Lethal Weapon?
Andy, no.
Oh man, he's going to love it. Man. He's missing out.
Oh yeah, he's got 4 beautiful films to go. Maybe he's not the 4th one, but first 3 are cracking.
Are we ever getting?
But yeah, man. I don't know. I know Donna, before he passed away, had mentioned, or he was quoted, that he was going to get Mel Gibson to direct one, like the next installment. But I don't know how hot Mel Gibson's name in Hollywood is right now, so I don't know whether he'd have the clout to go and direct a Lethal Weapon film at this point in his career, sort of type thing.
Yeah, I know he's like a controversial figure now, and he, like you say, he kind of goes up and down, doesn't he, with credibility in Hollywood. But he's definitely a capable director, so it would seem the natural, if they do make it, it would seem a natural step, wouldn't it, for him to kind of take the mantle, especially in Richard Donner's absence. But yeah, let's not. That's another stream in itself, isn't it?
Yeah,
but yeah. So no, yeah, genuinely, Ellis, like I think your Instagram page and your YouTube channel is great, and the YouTube channel, I know it's just started, but it's got a lot of potential. That's how I got to know you. As you know, I got sucked in by your Instagram account. I think your stories and your post, your taste, it's really well done. You're consistent with it, and it compelled me to get in touch with you, because I don't just message everyone, but like you just kept putting things up that hit me in the feels, and I was like, I want to say something to this guy about that, because I need to speak to him about it, and it just naturally went from there, didn't it? But no,
mate, it's blossomed ever since.
It's great to have you on. It's great to have you on here.
Thank you very much for having me on, Andy. It's a pleasure.
No, you're welcome. So, guys, if you're meeting Ellis for the first time on this channel, I put all the links for his YouTube and his Instagram in the description. So be sure to go and check him out on Insta and YouTube, and follow, sub up, all that good stuff. You'll not be disappointed. So that's my plug. Cheers, my genuine plug for Ellis there. So yeah, I'll just ticker tapes at the bottom, guys, for anyone that's joining kind of late, and I'll just stick up the Mission Impossible one. I'll just kind of chop and change these so these know what the score is. But yeah, so wee disclaimer maybe about Tom Cruise films we haven't seen. Ellis, you want to go first? What you haven't seen, so people don't shoot us.
Yes. So there's 2 categories in our 10 group list that I haven't seen. So Jerry Maguire is one. I'll hold my hands up. I know people will probably be like,
that's a biggie. That's a biggie.
It is a biggie. I know. I don't know why I never really went out my way to watch it. I think to me it was just like a one-way sort of romantic deal, but I know it's a bit more than that, really. But yeah,
it's quite layered. Yeah, it's quite layered. But
yeah, definitely. Like from the clips I've seen, yeah, like show me the money. But yeah, so I've seen plenty of clips from the film. It's one of them films that I think you've seen so much of in like little parts here and there over the years, that like
parodied and stuff.
Yeah, and you get this warped idea of what the movie's about, when it's probably is not about what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And the second movie I haven't seen in this list is our Titans round. So I haven't seen, is it The Colour of Money?
Right, okay.
Haven't seen The Colour of Money. But that's as far as our Tom Cruise gone. Yeah, as far as our Tom Cruise gone.
Yeah.
That's my 2 disclaimers.
I've pretty much seen everything apart from some really early 80s stuff. So I think it's Endless Love, his very first movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen Endless Love.
I've not seen Losing It, and I've not seen Taps. I think those are the only 3 like proper credited movies that Tom Cruise is in that I haven't seen, just because they are like kind of lesser known early movies. I've pretty much seen everything. I'm not an expert on them all by any means. You know, some I've seen more than others, but yeah, I have pretty much seen everything. But those three I'll just tell you right now that I've mentioned aren't going to be getting discussed. But maybe at the end, you know, when we do honorable mentions and you know, and some of the comments we will. But yeah, it's just so that people know what we haven't seen, kind of thing. But yeah, Jerry Maguire, I definitely see that, mate, and The Colour of Money. But we'll kind of obviously I'll be talking about them in the next few minutes. So
I'll put them on the watch list, man.
We'll jump into we'll jump into the comments before we get kind of started and see if there are any. I think they've actually got any at the moment. Unless I'm doing something wrong, but I don't. They've got 4 people watching, but I don't actually see any comments there yet. Cool. Right, so we'll just kind of get into it. So first up, we're going to do the top 10 slot. So I've got a little graphic here for that. Yes. Boom. So it's guilty pleasures. Now we kind of struggled with this, didn't we? This is one that we
little bit
smashing late in the day. So we have 1988's Cocktail. I think that 1988's Cocktail versus 1985's Legend. So explain at this point, movies that you see on the left in the graphics and on the post are obviously mine, my side of the argument, and the ones on the right are obviously Ellis's. So Ellis, you're the guest, mate. So tell me why you love this totally shit movie, Legend.
Well, hang on. Love is an overstatement. Let's not go there. But one thing you'll like realize with me is like I definitely love aesthetics in movies sometimes more than the actual story component. And like when it comes to a Legend, that is 100% the truth. I think as far as the story element goes in Legend, it's not for me at all. But the aesthetic of it is amazing. Like I know the Ridley Scott had some trouble with the set. I think the set burnt down like halfway through shooting.
Oh, okay.
So he had to completely redo the set, and I think it was more like it wasn't originally supposed to be in a studio where like they set the forest and stuff in the film, but they ended up rebuilding it in the studio like quite late on in the production. And I think for that element, it looks quite good for that reason. Like he hasn't had much time to get it up and ready going, but it looked great. Tom Cruise performance, not great. Not great at all. Yeah, man. Like this could fall into like the category of like we could have either called this like guilty pleasures or like a young Tom Cruise performance because he's quite he's quite young in this one.
I think although this was released in '85, I was kind of surprised because I was just double checking, what I was typing, and I was like, no wait, I think it was before that. I think this film was maybe like filmed in like 82 or 83 or something, but released in '85 because he is proper young in it, younger than he looks since the film came out before theatrically. So
I think from when it was filmed to released, I think because they had so many problems with the production initially, that's probably why it was quite a long time from filming it to release. So he probably looks younger than what he did when the film actually came out.
Yeah, that's kind of, I get that vibe. So yeah.
But one more thing.
What's your positives then? Sell it to me.
But positives got nothing to do with Tom Cruise. That's the funny thing about this film. So the sets and production look amazing. Like I think they look great. Tim Curry performance in it is memorizing as Darkness. I think it's just great, and the makeup effects are just like out of this world. They look great. Obviously a bit tongue-in-cheek, and it is very 80s, but I love it, man. And great Tangerine Dream score. Can't go without mentioning that one. But yeah, I haven't got much more to say on Legend, like at all. To be fair, there's not much of an argument here. Yeah, but Yeah, man, Legend.
Yeah,
Great
so
movie.
I watched Legend like only about 6 months ago for the first time.
All
I kind
right.
of well because you and I have been talking about doing this for about 6 months, so it's probably the
Yeah.
beginning of me thinking I need to try and catch all these films that I haven't seen, and it obviously took a lot longer to come to fruition. But I watched it one night with the wife. She was like, "Ah, all right." It was kind of late at night. I think we did a couple of drinks. Thought like, let's stick this on, but see what happens. It's like an hour and a half long or something. Put it on though, and we just. I mean, we're kind of looking at each other 10 minutes in and going, I don't know if I can sit through this. It's like
You
not
know,
even. It's just, I know it's fantasy and stuff, but it was just wishy washy and like too kiddie. You know, like to be, the first 10 minutes, and he was so wooden, and the kind of female lead was a bit forgettable as well. Uh,
absolutely.
I
It's just
can't
not a good
remember who
film.
I can't remember who
It's
she
not a
is
good
now.
film.
Actually, I can't remember who it is. But yeah, so that was that, and I was like, and then then he kind of meets like the kind of the kind of fantasy creatures and stuff, and you get little glimpses of Tim Curry, and I'm like, all right, okay. I've seen the artwork in that, and I want to see this big red devil because that's interesting. And that was that. But yeah, it was like it went from like I nearly turned it off to like starting to think it was quite funny at how bad like his acting was and how like wooden he is, and he looks uncomfortable as if I'd love to know if he actually wanted to do this movie or if it was a case of like get a chance to work with Ridley Scott. It's early in my career. I'm not turning it down.
That's got to be
So
it. That's got to be the reason, surely. Like, and I don't think this wasn't a high point for Ridley at all. Like, I don't know. I think he had a bit of a not a rough patch, but he had a few films that just didn't really do that well. I know. I think around about this time he had a film out with Michael Douglas and Andy Garcia, Black Rain. If you've seen that, it's a quality film, but it's quite.
yeah,
I only saw it like last year, like for the
was that
first
not
time
late?
ever.
Was that not later on? Was that not like I might be wrong? Was that not like 89, 88 or something like that? Late 80s.
Possibly. But if
That's,
Legend, 85, couple of years after it, it might have been his next film after
and
this
obviously
one.
Blade. As much as Blade Runner's now like a loved classic, it didn't do well.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
and
no,
so
no.
yeah. So maybe the 80s was maybe a little bit of a rough patch, like for at the time, maybe a bit of a rough patch for
Yeah.
Ridley Scott. But yeah,
No.
it's worth a watch. But it's worth a watch as you alluded to. It's worth a watch for Tim Curry and the set design. Not really like anything for Tom Cruise, but we thought we'd include it just for a little bit of like banter. But yeah, so Cocktail for me is definitely a bit of a guilty pleasure. Getting onto that, so I used to watch this a lot with my flatmate Nick, and I think we liked what's the Aussie guy's name in it? That's his like mate
I'm not
Conlon,
sure.
like Conlon's Law. Bury the dead and else they stink it. Bury the dead and else they stink at the joint. He's amazing life advice to to Tom Cruise. But yeah, it's just quite a watchable film. It's so like iconic, isn't it? Like you can't certainly growing up, you can't like even pretend at a party to make a cocktail without somebody going, "Oh, who's your Tom Cruise?" Like it's like became like
Yeah,
this kind of like,
totally.
and it's became this like the minute you start tossing cocktails, people are going to think of like
It,
Tom Cruise, and
it's a
he is cool in it. You know, he's like he's kind of playing himself a little bit in the 80s, but yeah, it's quite a good kind of 80s soundtrack. It's an easy watch. I suppose it's just a kind of rom com, isn't it? It's like a kind of
yeah, basically. Is it? Would you like come? It's. I don't know. Like I'm just thinking about other bar
not a rom
films
com.
and stuff.
Yeah.
No, like it's not. It's no Roadhouse. Do you know what I mean? But Cocktail. No, it's okay. It's like I've only seen this film like fleeting in like bits and bobs over the years. It's not been one I've like been drawn to. It's funny. Like when I was younger, I hated Tom Cruise. This is like I haven't always loved Tom Cruise. This has been like there's been like a turning point in my life somewhere where I thought, hang on a minute, this guy's unbelievable. But yeah, his roles in the 80s and 90s, they sort of hit or miss for me a little bit. I think he's honestly the man's reinvented himself so many times over the decades. Like it's pretty impressive, to be fair. There's no genre he hasn't touched.
Yeah,
So to say.
it's the amount of directors he's worked with as well. Like he's worked with absolutely like a who's who of everyone in the industry, and he usually double dips as well, doesn't he? He usually does one or two collaborations with these big directors. But
So they must have a really good like working relationship when he gets with these directors from a collab again. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. But yeah, no. So as I say, Cocktail is one that I watched a lot, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, just because it's easy to watch and we can. It was more like the funny parts were like, I think, is it Brian Brown? Is that the name of that Aussie guy? He was in FX in that. Do you know what I mean?
oh, I'm not sure. No.
Anyway, he's quite funny. Like his lines in it, and obviously it spawned like Cocktails and Dreams. How many pubs abroad have you been in that you've seen a Cocktails and Dreams like that's inspired by by the movie? So gave us loads of them. So for me, mate, I don't want to dwell on these two that long because they're not exactly like the big fish and what people want to know about. But I'm definitely siding with my film here. I think that.
Oh, mate, I'm giving you it all day long.
I think if I had to sit down and watch two, what one am I going to find less offensive and like have a bit of a good time with? It's going to be Cocktail, even though I've seen it. Unless I was maybe pissed, like I could maybe have a good laugh in the right company with Legend, watching Legend. But I think I'm going to go with Cocktail. What are you thinking? There's your thoughts?
Oh, mate, Cocktail all day long. Like Legend's not getting through. We can't have Legend on the list, man. It's not a good spot for Tom Cruise or Ridley Scott. Get it off the list. Gone.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying that. I don't have to debate this one too much. So yeah,
no.
I think for number 10, then we're going to go with Cocktail. So a good bit of 80s cheese there just to get us started off. Mate, I was going to do some comments now. We don't have any, so I'm beginning to worry if there's maybe like a technical issue. Not that I'm like this massive streamer or anything, but I normally have a few comments by now. So
it's probably me, mate. I put everyone off. It's fine.
maybe.
Maybe.
If people don't want to have a say in it, then we just decide ourselves. So that's cool. So right, okay, let's have a look. So on to number 9. So number 9 is underrated Mission Impossible. So we're going to limit one Mission Impossible, weren't we? Each in the top 10. We found that kind of difficult.
There's too many good ones though. There's subcategories within the Mission Impossible franchise at this point.
Yeah, and there's no other big franchise really to compare. Like he's not got another sizable franchise that we could have done a Mission Impossible versus. No. So we thought, right, let's do some underrateds, and then obviously some of the bigger ones might appear later on. But yeah, so I think it's safe to say these are the underrated Mission Impossibles. Would you agree? But like, majority.
I wouldn't say Mission Impossible 2 is underrated, but for me, it's underrated.
Panned by globally panned Mission Impossible 2. So
Andy, I've just got a message off Paul. I think he's trying to comment, but he can't comment for some reason.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure.
I'm commenting on the stream, but it looks like Andy can't see them.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'll have a wee play about with the chat and see if there's anything I can change. Bear with us.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, guys, I like Mission Impossible 2 is obviously my pick of this category. So chuck the stones at me. But yeah, man. It's only me that I thinks this is like an underrated Mission Impossible film. It's like my nostalgia feelings have like took over me and they won't let me go. So Mission Impossible 2 was just like one of them films back in the day that I just used to watch constantly. I remember having the I think it was VHS, then we had it on DVD, but like this was one that I used to go back to all the time. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I still do like it a little bit. In the grand scheme of the Mission Impossible films now, it's quite a different one because it's so John Woo. It's more John Woo than it is Mission Impossible, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely a John Woo movie with
through and through.
With a Mission Impossible accent, isn't it? Like,
double barrel guns, double white doves, like mate, it's got everything. Double everything.
Like, and he only wanted to do Mission Impossible 2 because it was a perfect symmetry. He doesn't want to do 1 or 3. He needs to do like 2 so that it's thematic, so that it has like 2 Berettas, 2 leads. I mean,
That's it,
there's even
man.
like the
Yeah.
whole race swapping going on. There's duality there. That's like it's a wet dream for John Woo, isn't it? But yeah.
Oh, isn't it? Yeah.
But no, I went to see. Did I see? I think this was the first 15 that I seen at the cinema, Ellis. So
Oh, no
I never
way.
got to see it, and I remember loving Mission Impossible 1. So 96, I was like 10. Watched that VHS or something from Blockbuster and loved it well over my head. I mean, even now, Mission Impossible, the first one, you need to be paying attention if you don't see it before to kind of follow the plot. So there's no way you're following it as a 10-year-old. But it was like,
No.
but Cruise is charismatic. There's plenty of action in it and stuff. It's espionage, so it was like American Bond to me, as far as I was concerned. So yeah, when the second one rolled around, I could see it at the cinema, and I was a bit older, obviously, kind of adolescent at that point, and I just thought he was like that was when the man crush for Tom Cruise started with me. It was just like, this guy's cool as. Like watching it now, I see that it's like total cheese, like it's like
Mate, the first opening credits, mate, when he's just like hung on that rock and he's got that intense stare on him, mate. It's like, and the music's going. I love it, man. That opening credit scenes, so cheesy.
It's total mental. Like as it goes on, I mean, it's Mission Impossible and the stunts and all that, but I think they get the balance right going forward. With like, he's still an intelligent guy who takes like calculated or risks out of desperation, but like for the greater good. Whereas like in Mission Impossible 2, he's just like, yeah, I'm on my holidays and I'm just hanging off a fucking rock. Like, you know,
it's
like,
just it's like an Oakley's advert, the full film. Basically.
Like totally. But yeah, I watched it at the cinema. I came home. It was like a proper amazing cinema moment for me. I was like, that was amazing. Like, what a film, what an action film. Came home, loved the Limp Bizkit track. Like, take a look around. And
you got to.
I remember sitting at the time I was renting the Siphon Filter on the PlayStation, sitting playing Siphon Filter. It was the closest I could get to a Mission Impossible game. Where like, take a look around, the single just blaring out. My hi-fi. As a Geek chat, I'm going to Geek chat here. So yeah, that's what I was all about back in the day. But yeah, it's still like a wee pleasure. And if you like John Woo, there's fun to be had with Mission Impossible 2.
Like I say, I just think it's a bit of a breath of fresh air within the Mission Impossible front. Like it's nowhere near as good as these new Christopher McQuarrie films.
Maybe.
You're not wrong. You know what I always find funny about Mission Impossible 2 is, is it who's the villain called? The actor who plays the villain in Mission Impossible 2.
Dougray Scott.
Yes, there's that really famous, like, he sacked off the opportunity to play Wolverine, and he went with Mission Impossible 2 because he wanted to do that one instead.
Well, he didn't actually sack it off. My understanding is that he was in talks to do kind of both. Again, early stages of his career, and it's like chance to work with Tom Cruise in the sequel to Mission Impossible, massive movie. As the bad guy, he's like, right, cool, I'll do that. So he signs up for that while still negotiating potentially X-Men. So if you think about it at the time, though, like X-Men and Marvel wasn't what it is just now. So you can understand that Dougray Scott's maybe thinking, take Mission Impossible on, and happy to have X-Men in the back burner. But Mission Impossible it's a sequel to a successful film. It's Tom Cruise. Let's get on board that. So my understanding is he's filming that. It runs on, and then all of a sudden X-Men gets brought forward, and they're like, right, mate, we need you to commit to this. He was the first choice to play Wolverine because what's his face? Hugh Jackman was relatively unknown at the time. I think Dougray Scott had a little bit more of a name at the time, and I think what they were wanting to do was like work both. So I think because obviously he's not the main star of Mission Impossible, so I think they were hoping that he could jostle, like, film both at the same time. That's what Fox wanted to do. But apparently, which I totally believe, because Tom Cruise is a total perfectionist, and he was producing Mission Impossible 2. He's basically turned around and said, no, this guy signed on to do my movie. This is worth millions of dollars. Like, I'm not taking the chance. He gets injured or he can't get back from filming and stuff. So he signed up to do my movie. I'm not releasing him. Like, so that's not on the table. So that's then went back, and it's been a case of like, we're not going to wait on you. We have to move forward, and that's how Hugh Jackman's got the role. So that is a total
blessing in disguise.
That's my understanding. That's my understanding of what happened, because I think he's quite bitter about it. I think he's documented his like not
really?
like bitter like, but yeah, I think he was up. He wanted to do that role 100%. It wasn't a case of like, oh, you know, I backed the wrong horse. It was like he thought he was doing both.
He wouldn't have necessarily had the longevity of what Hugh Jackman's had, and like Hugh Jackman having 3 of his own spin-off movies from like the main X-Men movies and stuff. Like, yeah. I think Hugh Jackman really just completely made that role his own. He's a bit taller than what Wolverine is in the comics, but who gives a shit?
I think Dougray Scott's quite tall as well. Not as tall as Jackman, but I thought Dougray Scott was a good casting. You can't see past Hugh Jackman now, but like I totally get where they were going with him and why they wanted him.
I could see it. I could definitely see it. Like looking back to it, like he's quite an intense guy. But he is in Mission Impossible 2, to be honest. Like I think he's got some great little moments of like intensity. But yeah, like Mission Impossible 2 isn't the greatest film of all time, but it's one that's very close to my heart. Maybe Mission Impossible 3 is the one that's like the game changer in the whole franchise.
Yeah, so Mission Impossible 3 for me seemed to come out of nowhere. Like I didn't like they hadn't. It's the longest gap, I think, is it?
I'm not sure. Was it 2000? Was it 2005 or 2006? Mission Impossible 3.
2006. So yeah, it's the longest, not by much, but it's the longest gap. That was
my first in the cinema.
What year was it? And I've bloody got them on the screen for me. But yeah, so.
Sorry, yeah.
So it's like six. I'm sure Ghost Protocol was 2011. So yeah, by a nose, the longest gap was MI2 to MI3, and I wasn't really sure if what his plans were. I don't know how many people were sure of what he was going to do, because he was working with Spielberg, wasn't he, in between making massive movies there in the sci-fi genre. So I thought Mission Impossible 3 kind of was a bit of excellent, because I like Mission Impossible. I didn't know we were getting one, but it did feel a little bit like low budget to an extent, and a little bit like as if they weren't willing to totally back down on it. They weren't sure if people were going to buy this version. So
I think they grounded it in a way that Mission Impossible 2 like went so overboard with like its bombasticness. Mission Impossible 3 was like for me, Mission Impossible 3 is like the Casino Royale of the Bond franchise, like in the Mission Impossible franchise, sorry. Right. It's like it's the turning point. I think that's where things start getting just different. Like I think the first one's like just a through and through spy thriller. Like it's not as like the stunts and stuff aren't as epic as what they get onto in later films. The John Woo movies like that middle point, but then Mission Impossible 3, it all just starts getting a bit more like serious in tone. Like I was saying to you last night, like I think like Tom Cruise's acting in Mission Impossible 3, amazing. I think it might be the best of the whole franchise.
It's a great start, and it's an unusual structure, like compared to the rest of them, that that it starts at the halfway point of the film, or like and then not to spoil it for people, but then it gets back to that and goes beyond. Not unusual for films to do that, but unusual in this kind of like in this franchise and in the extended genre, the kind of spy genre. But yeah, like you say, that acting at the beginning for an action film is intense, and you get the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's just as good as the as the kind of antagonist, as the villain who's like intimidating him. And this like it doesn't get enough praise. You're right, it doesn't get enough praise, that opening sequence and that whole interrogation scene. The way that Tom Cruise kind of goes through every skill he has as a spy. So he starts off by trying to intimidate him into like letting her go, and then he kind of starts to use his brain and like tries to manipulate him psychologically. And then he kind of like he tries a few other tactics until the point where at the end he breaks character, and he just basically starts begging the guy for a life.
Yeah.
And he goes through all these different like emotions, and they're all convincing, and you kind of see the different like skills. You see the skill set that Ethan Hunt has as a spy, until he's broken and he's just desperate at the end. So yeah, it's awesome. It's got the best acting in it of all the Mission Impossibles for sure. It peaks at the halfway point for me. The whole bit on the bridge is awesome. Still love that.
Yeah,
probably the beginning. not fair to say the beginning, because some of the stuff in Mission Impossible 2 was pretty crazy. But yeah, that whole bridge scene where he gets thrown into the car, I always loved that. That whole bridge, I love watching that bridge scene. I sometimes just put it on and I watch it. I just think it's great. But it never quite gets back to that. You know, what I think is like the thrill factor never quite gets back to that.
The third act's quite subdued for like a Mission Impossible film. It doesn't end on its like big action set piece sort of thing. I think the break-in, you know, like the midway point, I think it's just after the bridge scene. Is it they go is it Tokyo, or they go overseas, and there's like that they build like a giant swing, don't they? It's like one of the main stunts in the film. But I love like all that bit. Yeah, I actually do like the start of the introduction to Mission Impossible 3, just like halfway through this mission, sort of like you just slammed straight in it. It's not Mission Impossible 2 where you're looking at Tom Cruise do his Oakley's advert, like rock climbing, like, do you know what I mean? Gets straight into it. And I think especially as well with is it like his student that gets captured at the start of Mission Impossible 3? It's like one of his cadets basically who he's training, like a trainee basically.
Yeah, that sequence is good as well. Yeah, really good.
I really like that, and I like how sort of like violent it gets with like the whole when the explosion goes off, like in a brain, and like yeah, man, it like sort of comes out of nowhere, and you're a bit like, whoa. And I think that's a bit of like a turning point for the franchise.
It's just over in an instant as well, which kind of like builds on Philip Seymour Hoffman's like ruthlessness. That all right, anything goes here, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a solid Mission Impossible movie, and I think it is. A lot of people credit like 4 as being the kind of turning point, but I think this one was the one that really got it back on track. If this one hadn't have landed the way it did, I don't think it was a massive success, but I think it was generally quite well received. And I think if they hadn't have like brought it back, grounded it as you say, make it more about the team element, we might not have got the kind of better sequels that came after, and I think it definitely kind of done its way to course correct the franchise. Yeah, not to shit all over Mission Impossible 2, but you're right. John Woo just basically John Wooed that to death, didn't he? He just took it. He just took it to another level. I even thought at the time it's jarring. It's still and it's jarring now. Like Mission Impossible 2 is the black sheep. It just doesn't fit thematically in the franchise. No. And Tom Cruise, like you say, it's like he's in an advert for himself. Like it's like an aftershave advert or something. He doesn't have any real acting. There's no like character development. He's a bit dead behind the eyes. It's just all about the kind of aesthetic.
A little bit like totally, and they go a little bit over, but like that Mission Impossible 2 is like, oh, what? So we can like make masks and put them over our faces, right? Let's just do that the whole film. Do you know what I mean? Like they use that plot device so many times in that film. It's quite funny, to be fair. But there's like in the middle of that film where is it Thandie Newton? She's captured, and I think that like Tom Cruise is like infiltrating a building, and like the music's dead dramatic. It's a Hans Zimmer score as well, Mission Impossible 2, which is wild.
Apparently, I've never seen Hans Zimmer live. I'd love to, but apparently he plays that song in his set all the time. The one. The most.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, man, and I do like that scene in like the middle of that film where he's like, I can't remember what the line is, but he's like, I won't lose you, and he's like, it's dead dramatic. It's like so serious. I love it. I love it so much, man. And he jumps out the window. Yeah, it's great.
Quite
that
bad,
whole scene.
Quite bad green screen that bit actually when he jumps out the window with the parachute.
Yeah, totally. But like with the music and everything, I don't know, man. I was a sucker for it when I was a kid. Like absolutely.
Right. What's your favourite moment from Mission Impossible 2? Like,
probably that one, to be fair, like that whole building scene, I always remember it. But it's got to be when it's like in the third act where like this is a bit of a joke answer, but like I laugh so many times. It's when them two doves come out, man, and you just see Tom Cruise. It's so good. You just live for the cheese, man. Absolutely love it.
There's some absolute ridiculous martial arts happen, if you can call it martial arts, man. It's like that. I find that Mission Impossible 2. It's like I praised. It was like the early days of Cruise going, do you know what? I'm gonna do everything myself. So it was like he's like, I can't fight for shit, but I'm gonna like head on. I can. So like and I think it's dead obvious, like in all the fight sequence, especially the one at the end, he's trying to do like roundhouse kicks and all that, and they just look crap, like the way you would do when you were a kid, like you don't have the technique, but they try their best with the cinematography to make it like look right. But see when he does see when he does that mad, like when he's wearing that stupid woolly hat at the beginning of like in the silo, and he knocks that guy over, and he runs full pelt, and he does this like somersault, somersault leg drop. You're like, what on earth is all that about? Like, just complete.
I like it where he like kicks the gun out of the sand. I think that's one of my favourites. You know, right in the
first. You can practically see the wire on it as well. Like,
yeah, man.
I'd say my favourite bit that is cool though, like there's no getting away from it, as much as it's a lot of shite, is when he's on the bike. As soon as he's on the bike though, and he like total deadpan, dead serious face as if he does it every week. You know, just starts looking in the rearview mirror, and he's leaning back with the Beretta, and he's like going about 80 miles an hour, firing a handgun from about 100 meters away, like single-handed, and he's like dead accurately smashing the windshield. Cool as anything though. But yeah, that's my cool thing. But right, what we doing, mate? We can't waste any more time on like.
It's Mission Impossible 3. I don't mind losing 2 in a row. Get the clangers. What do you think? Mission Impossible 2?
I'm starting to think like, yeah, Mission Impossible 2 is a better film, but maybe you're right. Like, what one am I going to have more fun watching? Like, is it Mission Impossible 2?
I'm not gonna lie. Like, if it's a Saturday night, I've had like 5 Moretti's off the belt. I'm going to put Mission Impossible 2 on them. Definitely.
I don't know what's going on with these comments, folks, and I apologise. We're not ignoring you. It's just that for some reason they're not working. So I've used StreamYard a few times now. I haven't done anything different. I don't know if it's an issue like on their side or whatever. Probably my side because it's me. But yeah, I can't find anything at all. And I'm kind of like on the fly here trying to change settings. I'll see if I've set something that I shouldn't have with regards to comments, but I can't see anything obvious. And I don't want to obviously stop the stream and kill the momentum. So I apologise.
No, it's fine, man.
I wish we could get some input because I feel like comments could help sway this for us. It's better for us to get interaction. I don't know what's going on, but my wife's coming in there to tell me. Is there they're all there, but I can't see them. Right, okay. Right, so I've got them. My wife's showing me on her phone, and they're all there, but I can't get them on my end. So I don't know what's going on here. Hopefully, you can chat amongst yourselves. Right. I can't just walk off your phone. Okay. Like, my wife's like sitting here. With her phone propped up so I can see the comments. So this is just so right. Okay, so what we calling? Right, I'm gonna put this one down to you, right? But
don't put it down to me.
No, I'm gonna let you have MI2 if you want it.
I'll have it.
Yeah, take it, mate. Take it.
I'll take it.
Right, so we're going with MI2 is an underrated, enjoyable, watchable Mission Impossible film. At number 9.
Andy, if you had people in the stream, they've all left.
YouTube careers are over, mate. After that review, right? I'll put this little slide up and I'll have a wee look in the wife's phone here. Like, what's going on? Okay, I've had a look at some of the comments, and I think from the comments, mate, we've made the right call. People seem to be hating on MI3, and like, the nostalgia is flowing. So just from some of the messages I can see here, we've got Paul Townsend saying, "I've never understood the hate for MI2. I actually think MI3 is my least favourite."
Interesting.
MI2 for Tandy Newton 2. Yeah, Tandy Newton, underrated and like really unknown at the time. Richard Ross, MI2, because we ended up with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. What we were talking about earlier, that's a very good point.
Yeah, man.
And Video Tasties, I never liked Tom Cruise until I saw The Firm. Hate to disappoint, mate, but I don't think we talk about The Firm. Video Tasties. And Richard Ross, lovely hair in MI2. Would you say it?
Best haircut of the whole franchise. Maybe Rogue Nation.
After I watched that in the movie at the cinema, I basically came home and decided I wanted to have Tom Cruise here. but I could never grow it. It was far too thick, and I don't have millions of dollars to spend on it. So it was like I just had this like pure shite version of Tom Cruise's hair, and now obviously I'm follically challenged, so I'm never going to have it. So unless he shaves his head, I'm never going to be on trend with a Tom Cruise hair.
Tom Cruise.
But yeah, no, that's all I can see. There's loads of comments here, mate. I feel really bad. I wish we could read them out, man. Maybe my wife will come in periodically with comments for me to read. I don't know. Paul,
no, I'll stay here, babe.
Paul, you can't stay there the whole stream. Ridiculous. So, like,
I'll just sit and read a book.
So, yeah, Paul Tams is another good YouTuber. He knows what he's doing with these streams. If you can stick something in there, mate, if it's something obvious you can think of, something that I'm maybe missing, let me know and I'll get it via the wife. So if you know how to fix this, Paul, help me out because I'm kind of floundering here. Anyway, so honestly, you don't have to. Right, so number 8. Well, Christ, about half an hour on this, mate. We need to speed things up here. So number 8 is obviously our underrated Tom Cruise movies. So these are ones that we just think will get enough love. Getting away from the franchise, these are films that we like, and we thought we'd throw them out there. So I'll go first with this one, Ellis. Just a variety. So Valkyrie, 2008, Bryan Singer. The true story of Colonel von Stauffenberg and how he tried to overthrow Hitler, about the German hierarchy that kind of grew out a conscience with regards Hitler's motives, and decided to kind of try and overthrow him and came up with Operation Valkyrie, which was a plot to murder him on their side and try and save a bit of face and restore their own kind of humanity and Germany's humanity, if you like, reputation. I think this is, I haven't watched it in a while, but I used to watch it a lot and I thought it was awesome. It doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. It made a weird choice of going with the native accents of all the cast, which I think annoyed people, which I understand, but it's got a big ensemble cast. I think a lot of them are British. So I would rather people just stuck with their natural accents because I can deal with that than trying to put on German ones because that can be jarring. Yeah. Trying to get a whole ensemble cast in real German accents, you're maybe going to get 1 or 2 that'll be good at it, and the rest are going to be probably kind of ropey and shit, aren't they? So I think it was the right call to just stick with the natural accents. I think it starts off, somebody can correct me via my wife's phone if I'm wrong in the comments. But I think it starts off in German, dubbed maybe, or they speak a few lines in German and then it slowly transitions into.
Is it a bit like Prey? Sorry, Willow. Sorry, it's my dog.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it is like Prey. I think it starts off with a few spoken German lines by Tom Cruise's wife, and then it goes into obviously their own accents. Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's very suspenseful, and it's a cracking. It's a true story, so it has that bit of weight straight away. I think the production value is great, and the costumes are great. Tom Cruise looks remarkably like Colonel von Stauffenberg as well. If you watch the documentaries that kind of come with it, maybe this is why I like it so much, just because I think the authenticity of it's great, and the storyline itself is really good, and a lot of it's filmed in Berlin. So especially the execution scene at the end, when they're all done away with, almost like Goodfellas style when you see the montage of what happened to them all. The ones that bailed at the last minute. And were less supportive, and the ones that stuck it to the end, the kind of heroes, they filmed that in the actual location that it happened in Berlin, and apparently the whole they kind of publicized it to the German public, and a lot of them turned up to watch it because obviously German people don't get to kind of celebrate the heroes of the war. So there was a one-off kind of thing for them, and I think it was quite a moving and emotional thing.
Sorry, Andy, I need to sort my dog out. 2 seconds. I'm just going to put her in the other room. Give me 2 seconds, mate.
Sorry. I'll take over for now.
Yeah, man. 2 seconds.
Yeah, so Valkyrie is underrated, and I definitely think it's one that should be visited if you haven't already. You can pick it up for pretty cheap. You know what? I never actually see it, though, in like CEX and stuff, but I would imagine you can get it pretty cheap. I've got it on Blu-ray somewhere behind me. MGM release. Yeah, so that's the Blu-ray that came out in 2009, 2008. Pretty good, loaded with special features. But yeah, I think Valkyrie is definitely underrated and is a good flick to watch. Terrible dialogue. Anyway, yeah.
Sorry about that, mate.
No, it's all right. I'll get you back up. So you're back in time. I was just about to start Jack Reacher, but you might as well crack on yourself, mate. Tell us what
Jack Reacher.
Before you start, I like Jack Reacher. I like Jack Reacher. I enjoyed it when it came out. I didn't know anything about the character. I hadn't read the books and stuff, but I have since, and I've seen the series, and we'll get back to that once you tell me. Once you tell me why you like it.
So quick, like I actually did know Jack Reacher before the film came out. I knew the character just because of my dad. My dad's like a big Lee Child fan, I think, who's the author of the Jack Reacher books.
Yeah.
So every time we used to go on holiday, there was always a new Jack Reacher book getting bought to take away with him. So like that was like embedded in my head for years. So when this finally came around and it was like, oh, Tom Cruise is going to be in this Jack Reacher film, like my dad was pretty excited for it. I was semi-excited for it. I don't think Tom Cruise looks anything like how they depict him in the book whatsoever. But I can believe Tom Cruise is like this action star all day long, just because he's a bit short. Doesn't really matter. Like that's fine. It's cool. But I just think this is like a no-nonsense sort of straightforward action flick that I pretty much enjoy. Like I enjoy all the set pieces in it. I think there's a quality car chase in it. Like just certain bits within the film, like I know it's in the trailer, but the bit where he just like disappears within the crowd sort of thing, like I think they're all great moments. It's just is it Jai Courtney who plays the villain?
Yeah, he's the kind of like the main henchman, maybe, because it's what's his name?
He doesn't really
director that plays the kind of overarching villain, isn't it? Warren.
I can't remember the guy's name.
Herzog. Something Herzog. Can't remember.
Oh, Herzog. He's done a Bad Lieutenant, a remake with
Nicolas Cage. Rescue Dawn and
Oh, I didn't realise it was him. Anyway, it's been a while since I've watched it. Jack Reacher's not one of the Tom Cruise films that I revisit on a regular basis. I thought the sequel was terrible. That just leave that one alone. But the first Jack Reacher film, I don't think it's a bad film. It's just a no-nonsense sort of 90-minute-ish sort of action flick with Tom Cruise. You can be in and out, doesn't spoil the day. But yeah, man, I don't mind it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I totally agree with everything you say. It's the first director-actor partnership of McQuarrie on it. Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise. So without it as well, would like Rogue Nation and Fallout be the films that they were? Because they obviously kind of like established the ground rules and the basis of their kind of filmmaking relationship during Jack Reacher. So I think McQuarrie was uncredited on the script or the screenplay for Ghost Protocol. I think he helped. He might be credited. He definitely had something to do with Ghost Protocol.
I didn't know that. I thought it was. I thought he jumped on from Rogue Nation onwards.
No, I think he helped rewrite the screenplay or something like that. And he's maybe uncredited, but he's definitely got something to do with it. That was his first kind of involvement, I think. And then obviously that's how he ended up. So I think he was always kind of planning on maybe enlisting his help in some capacity for the next Mission Impossible, but then Jack Reacher obviously came about.
Was it Brad Bird who done Ghost Protocol?
Yeah, he directed of the Incredibles, the animated. He'd only ever done an animated film before that. It was weird how that came out actually, but so I think Jack Reacher's good. It maybe gets bashed unfairly now because it's well documented that he doesn't actually fit the physical description of Jack Reacher, and then we've had, I forget the actor's name, but the actor that plays Jack Reacher in the Amazon original TV show is much more in keeping with how he looks or how he's described in the book, and I think he does a good job. I've watched the whole series.
Is it worth a watch?
It's the best TV show ever, but it's worth a watch. It is good. He kind of makes it. I think some of the other actors are a little bit ropey, but he makes it. But I definitely think he's like, I've not seen interviews, but he is definitely taking some cues from Tom Cruise. Like, I definitely think he's channeled a little bit of that because I think like what you're saying, height aside, I do think I've read a couple of the Jack Reacher books now, and I do think Cruise does well at like getting across his character. But it's just so hard to see. But a big part of his character is the presence, and he can't like. There's only so much he can do to get that across. So I understand the criticisms basically.
I think the problem with Jack Reacher is just that there was so many better action-orientated films that Tom Cruise has done after that film. Like they just got better and better and better, and I don't know where they're going next. They're going to go into space. I know it. They've got to, man.
I think it should have been a one and done. I don't think there was anything that we needed to see the sequel.
The sequel, no.
We've got like the Mission Impossible franchise. We didn't need another like kind of action franchise. A one and done. I think Never Go Back. Ironically titled Never Go Back. He shouldn't have went back. Basically, he should have left it at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so to round this one up, mate, I'm leaning more towards Valkyrie. My reason being is because I don't think people talk about this at all. Tom Cruise hasn't done many war films. If you rule out Last Samurai and Born the 4th of July, I suppose, he hasn't really done any. Well, it's the only World War II film he's done, I think.
Is it right?
It's quite an unusual role for him, I think, in this, and I think it's kind of overlooked in it, and it's kind of a unique one, I think, within his his kind of back catalogue. So I'm going to go with Valkyrie because I think Jack Reacher is otherwise, as you said, a bit forgettable against his other action films. But what's your thoughts?
I'll agree with that, mate. There's plenty of action-orientated films that'll be on the list at the end of it. So yeah, Jack Reacher's it's a throwaway movie, basically. It's not too bad, but it's nothing rememberable for me. Cool.
So we're going with Valkyrie then. That's kind of underrated one for people to check out in number 8. Valkyrie it is. So what's
Valkyrie
that?
Mate.
Is that 2-1 to me?
Mate, I think you've got them all by now. I think you've got
I gave you Mission Impossible 2.
Oh yeah, you did. Sorry.
No, there's a competition.
Forgot about that.
Right. Takes us on to number 7, getting into the good stuff now, mate. Right, okay. So we thought we both had these films on my list. Ellis had War of the Worlds and I had Minority Report. Who would you want to take us off, lead us off with War of the Worlds? We thought it'd be fun to do to pair these two because it's obviously the Spielberg one. So what do you think, mate? Tell us why you like
Spielberg off. War of the Worlds, man. So just disclaimer, I haven't seen the original War of the Worlds. I've only listened to the soundtrack of the original War of the Worlds. Really good. But anyway, War of the Worlds, Steven Spielberg, 2005. I love this film. This could be, I think, perhaps in my top 5 favorite Tom Cruise films. Not necessarily Spielberg films, but I think it's severely underrated. Me and Badger spoke about this film quite a little bit because we both have quite a big love for it. I feel like a lot of people's problems with it is like they feel like it falls off in the third act a little bit, but it just becomes a different beast for me in the third act. Whereas like the first 2 halves of it have been quite epic. A lot of things going on, a lot of things happening on screen, but then the third act, it just gets very quiet and very subtle, sort of unexpectedly for me in Tim Robbins' basement. And it just gets a little bit, goes into full on like sort of horror vibes a little bit right at the end. I know the whole film's pretty much like that, but like I really like it. I really like how like Tim Robbins is playing his like paranoid self, like bit disillusioned with what's going on. Well, actually not disillusioned. If someone's being like a conspiracy theorist or whatever, saying like the aliens are coming and you thought they were, you know, a bit insane for like the first part of their lives, but then the situation actually happens and the aliens do end up coming. He still seems a little bit mental, but like, you know, like, I don't know, man. I think people's problems lie with the third act of that film. I think
people don't like the ending, don't they? Not people don't like the kind of happy,
how
everything
it got
ties
solved.
together ending. Yeah, it all gets solved. It all gets solved really quickly, and nothing
really
bad happens
quickly.
at the end, basically.
No, there's no sort of consequence. I think it would have been better off if the son actually hadn't come back from when he ran into the war. You know, like his son's completely obsessed the whole way through with going and joining the army and going and fighting them. And he's desperately trying to get away from Tom Cruise.
Which is rebelling. He's just rebelling, isn't he, against like Tom Cruise's
essentially,
character? Because his dad's been a bit of a deadbeat dad, isn't he? Like selfish, kind of typical jock. I remember reading something quite interesting. I think it was maybe like the Empire Review at the time, saying that they felt, I don't know if you've seen this movie, Ellis, but All the Right Moves, the Tom Cruise film. Basically saying that they felt like is it Ray Ferrier in War of the Worlds? Is that his name? Character? I think it's Ray Ferrier.
Oh, possibly Ray. Yeah.
Ray something anyway. But this person said it almost feels like Ray Ferrier is the grown-up version of the character from All the Right Moves. So All the Right Moves is this young. He's in like the small kind of like mining. What was it, like a steel kind of making community, and you know he's kind of dealing with the struggles of that. It's been ages since I've seen All the Right Moves, but he's got everything there. You know, he's about to marry the sweetheart and all that. He's got his whole life ahead of him, but you feel he's a bit of a maverick and he's an everyman, and you know he's maybe not destined for greatness. It's kind of like tragic and sad as that is, and this is kind of like is almost like revisiting that character years later. So yeah, that is exactly what happened. He's remained a jock. He's remained like a kind of bit of a lad. His marriage hasn't quite worked out. He's not been a great dad. He's still into sports and all that. You can see him. You can see the guy from All the Right Moves going that way. You know, he's ended up this like kind of blue collar working guy that nothing seems to go right for, kind of thing.
Yeah,
everyone can relate to, kind of thing, which is important for War of the Worlds because it's so like War of the Worlds is all about, you know, like the fear of that kind of thing happening. It's quite a close. It's a small drama, really, isn't it? Against a big backdrop, because it's really about that character and his relationship with the two kids and how
his kids,
and how this massive imposing event, like this alien entity threat, makes him kind of grow up and realize I need to take responsibility here, and he realizes how much he loves his kids and he has to learn to become a dad in the space of like a day, kind of thing. And that's what's good about this film for me. And that's
100%
Spielberg. That's total Spielberg, isn't it? Because that's what he's always. Family's always at the core of his movies. But I feel like it gets a Spielbergy ending, that it's all happy at the end. Maybe if he's tried his best with his son, but it was too late, which is like a consequence of like, well, you know, you've not been a good dad for years, and now you're going to pay the price that, you know, maybe you lost your son through it. But he wins back the coat of Fannin, kind of. The world goes on, and he's got a chance to rebuild, but he's befallen a bit of tragedy. Maybe that would have worked. Maybe not. But that's kind of
it's one thing I do like about the film. His arc is like, I do like the progression of him, because he is a deadbeat dad at the start. He's providing nothing. Like, look at it, his flat and stuff like that. His house where he's living.
He's got like the engine on the dining table. He doesn't have any like. I like that. I like the bit where, like, you know, when he ends up in that house and they're hungry and he's like, you need to eat something, but he's got absolutely no clue how to make them anything that isn't a takeaway. So does he not
makes it like a ham and jelly peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I think that's what it is.
And he throws it against the wall, like he throws it against the window, and there's that great moment where it's like, Spielberg's got a knack for creating moments that you can actually see happening in your real life.
I really love that whole sequence in that house is brilliant, where they go into the basement and it's something so kicking off outside.
And it's kind of like next level to what happens at the beginning as well. You know, with the whole like, you know, he's throwing the ball and then it ends up through the window. That's another total like dysfunctional family moment that you could actually imagine happening. Totally. But no, I like War of the Worlds. I just haven't watched it as much, and it loses me a little bit towards the end. I don't know why. It's quite quiet. Maybe I should go back and watch it again. But I think it's just a bit peaks and troughs. It's not perfect for me. It's not like, it's just a bit disjointed, I think. But it's got some great moments. That's my kind of.
It's got its weird look to it as well. Like I was speaking Badger about it the other night. Like War of the Worlds and Minority Report and a few of Spielberg's films around that time. The same as AI, artificial intelligence. Yeah, they all got this certain look to them. Like they've got a glow on the screen. It's it's a bit bizarre. Like he didn't carry it through to his later films, but like on the early 2000s of Spielberg's films, like I don't know if he was using particular cameras while he was shooting them films, or if he had a similar cinematographer on the films, but they've got this weird look about them that didn't gel with me back in the day.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, it's almost like it's kind of like a kind of light bleed, isn't it? Like everything gets a little, like you've drained the colour out of them a little bit and put almost like a kind of like filter over it. So I don't know enough about filmmaking, cinematography, whether that's a natural effect captured using certain lenses, or if it was just in post production they just like changed the aesthetic of the movie. But no, I know what you mean. I think it kind of works with Minority Report and War of the Worlds, but yeah, as a kind of bizarre one. I don't know enough about why he chose that, but no, I like War of the Worlds. I think it's a good movie, and I can understand why people like it and why they maybe put it in the top. Why you've got it in your top 10, mate. But yeah, we'll go. But so the reason I've included Minority Report is just because I think this is solid. I think it's the better of the two. I think it's the more consistent movie with the better payoff. Like you don't get to the end of Minority Report and think, why did it go that way? You know, you kind of like. You buy and you're kind of more satisfied with Minority Report as a whole. It's held up well, like the effects. I watched bits of it just the other night there. I think it'd be a cracking 4K Blu-ray. I know we've got War of the Worlds, but for some reason we don't have Minority Report yet. Just got the Blu-ray. But it was one of the first DVDs I got, and it had a DTS soundtrack on it, which is kind of rare in the DVD day. That was like a premium thing, and I had it in my like out the box home cinema. There was like home cinema in a box. Terrible setup she get. It was all I could afford. Tiny little like satellite speakers. But it sounded amazing to me, and I put them far too high up. I put them like right on the ceiling almost. I don't know what I was playing.
Why not, man?
Like, just like madness. But hold on, I'll give you the floor just now because my wee ones came for a visit, Ellis. But you can keep people your thoughts on Minority Report in the meantime.
All right, no worries. So yeah, Minority Report for me. I actually rewatched it a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know whether this is a slightly hot take or not, but for me, it had been a while since I'd seen it, and I watched it again. It was slightly overrated for me, a little bit. I think I've got problems with Minority Report where people have got problems with War of the Worlds. In the third act, it just it loses me completely in the third act. I think it just doesn't have for me, it's slightly anticlimactic at the end. But yeah, as a Spielberg film, like the look of the film for me, like what I was saying previously with some of Spielberg's films around the early 2000s, I think this does suit the look of it because it's in that future environment, whereas War of the Worlds was set like present day. But yeah, Minority Report's good. The one thing I absolutely love about Minority Report, and my most favorite scene in it, is where he goes to get his eyes changed. So he gets the eye transplant, and that whole scene that stuck with me for years. Him going into that fridge, picking up that moldy milk,
sandwich,
picking up. Oh no!
That's amazing. The mold,
so
the mold
bad.
And her mold, it just worked like that little the little assistant that's got a bit of a shine takes a shine to him. She's got that horrible hairy mole. Sorry if anyone's got hairy mole, but the way it's depicted in that it's minging. But yeah, no. Sorry, I didn't really get to some good points in it. I was kind of listed some wee one just came in for a wee visit there.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying about it having a kind of. I think you either buy into the kind of style and the theme of Minority Report. So I get it's kind of like sci-fi noir, isn't it? I think that's how I would describe it.
That's a good shout, and I've never ever thought of it like that. To be fair, it's a really good shout.
And it's not for everyone that So it's like I wouldn't say it's massively mainstream appealing sci-fi because it's got that noir like slant back kind of like side to it. But I think it's awesome. I mean, it's not quite. It's not fair to say it's like Blade Runner, but it's kind of similar to Blade Runner in that it's like, well, it's a Philip K. Dick book for a start.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's dystopian and it's slow burn. Much more similar action than Blade Runner, but like there's parallels slightly there, and probably because Philip K. Dick that came up with the story for it. But yeah, it's right up my street. I just think the concepts, the production design, it's ahead of its time and still relevant. You know, I love the bit, you know, when he goes on the run and he basically can't go on the run because the whole, coming back to what you're saying about the eye scene, he has to have the eyes removed because everywhere he goes with technology, the identity scan gets him, and then it's like the way they depict it in the film, because it was before like smartphones and Instagram and like algorithms to find out what you want, like to tailor your adverts on social media and stuff. But it was the idea that like scans. It's like, John Anderson, you look like you could use a Guinness roundabout now and all that kind of nonsense. And he just gets bombarded with like things that are relevant to him. Like, have you taken out life
insurance? We're there now.
With him? It's like that is
that's
what
where
happens
we
now.
are, yeah.
That's exactly what happens now. So I love that about Minority Report. You can watch it, and it's like all good sci-fi, futuristic sci-fi. No matter when it was made and what year it was supposed to happen, Blade Runner, Minority Report. You know, this was I can't remember the year Minority Report set, but ultimately it came out 20 years ago, and they quite accurately depicted what a near future Earth would look like. You know, like, so I think it gets extra kudos from me if a sci-fi can kind of pull that off, can kind of predict the future a little bit. Even automated cars and all that kind of stuff. It's not, we're at the point where the cars are flying around and all that, Blade Runner style, but they're like, they're on these like crazy electric like motorways and stuff. But the idea, that is, you do get like automatic driving now, lane assist and all that. I thought,
like cool. Teslas and stuff, they're all auto driving stuff, aren't they? Like now,
pretty
so crazy,
And but the whole moral dilemma at the centre of Minority Report is intriguing as well, and I think that is better, or not better, but it piques my interest more. Like, I love a good dilemma. I love a good like paradox kind of thing. The whole idea of like pre-crime, is it a, you know, just because
I think
like
that's really,
and they don't follow through on it, does that mean that they're guilty of it? Because everybody has thoughts of violence or whatever, you know, but we don't necessarily follow through on them. So you're kind of convicting people on the basis of just thinking about something. So I think that's a great, just a great concept.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. The premise of that film's like amazing. I was just saying earlier, like the only thing that I struggle with is that it does fall down a little bit in the third act. It sort of slithers a little bit away from me in the third act. But yeah, man, and it's a very teal blue looking movie, isn't it? It's like it's what there's a particular style with Minority Report. I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and it's been a while since I've watched Minority Report. I wasn't massively blown away by it, if I'm being totally honest. Still a solid film though. I know it's like people think of it as one of Tom Cruise's best. So, but yeah, man, I'd love to know what people would be saying on this one, which one they would take.
I think my wife last updated saying that I don't think it's even updating on her screen when she's watching it. So I don't know if it is a wider problem than just on this stream. It's really annoying because, you know, we created this whole concept to try and get people to help us, and I can't even see what people are saying. But if you are commenting along, I hope you're enjoying it, guys. And I will be hopefully I can review them when I look at it in the replay.
And we'll do something else down the road as well. If people are enjoying it, we can do another sort of...
Hopefully you're enjoying it. I wish we could interact with you more, but remember, still fire the comments in though, and I'll check them somehow with regards to the giveaway as well. But yeah, so what we're going to do with this one, mate, I obviously like Minority Report, I think, best.
I'm torn.
I'm torn here. Yeah, I kind of think you've got me thinking. You made me want to watch War of the Worlds again, so that's a good start. I'm thinking, with the way we were talking about it there, maybe is War of the Worlds more mainstream? Is it maybe, if you were going to recommend these movies to people, would you maybe tell them to check out War of the Worlds first and then check out Minority Report? That's what the angle I'm going at here.
Yeah, possibly. I think Minority Report is a lot of film for someone. Like, I think if I was like getting my partner to watch it, she would think it's quite a lot of film. Whereas War of the Worlds is a bit more, you can sort of get through it a little bit easier. And I know it's got that, like, the ending's not great, but for how, like, I don't know how bleak War of the Worlds is throughout the whole thing. I think that ending at the end is quite a, you know, lifts things up slightly. I just think it's massively overrushed. I think they've both got problems in the third act, if I'm being totally honest. So I'm 50-50. I wouldn't mind whichever one got picked.
Yeah. No, I'd probably agree with you that Minority Report has maybe pacing issues. I think that the overall story it tells is satisfying, but you're right, it probably has moments where you'll lose interest a little bit. It's got some great like twists and turns though, like all classic noir should have.
I think you'll have a better conversation after watching Minority Report. Like, there's more to talk about after that film, whereas War of the Worlds is just classic sort of disaster blockbuster.
Yeah, it's got a great Ellie-ish performance from Colin Farrell. Like, that was the first big thing I took from Minority Report when I came out from watching it, was thinking, he's going places. Like, he really holds his own with Tom Cruise, like, on screen. When they have that kind of, like, scrap and the scrapyard.
Mate, I think we could go with Minority Report. I wouldn't mind Minority Report. It's a great film. It's just a lot of film, that's all.
This is why we need to see it. I really feel like these are the moments when we need the comments.
I know.
I feel like we need to go with the comments here. It's so hard to to choose. I'm happy to go with War of the Worlds, mate. So I don't know how do we do it. Do we...
Mate, it's your show. You go with whichever one you want to go with.
It's not a dictatorship though. Okay, what are we gonna go with?
War of the Worlds, then is that two on? That's two each, is it?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. 2 each. Let's play the gentleman's game here. Let's go War of the Worlds, and I think you've created a good case for it. And I think, Jimmy, you're just saying there about the ending being a bit optimistic and a bit far-fetched. I think you made a good point there. It's actually quite a bleak film throughout, and it's obviously about family, isn't it? So it kind of has to be that way in a sense, because it's all the character arc is Ray Ferrier, shit dad, kids dadless and like a bit lost themselves because they're questioning their own worth and stuff because dad's not really there and not that great a dad. And by the end of it, that's all been remedied. So maybe after they've been through everything, the big message is, families when they pull together can get through anything. So maybe you're right. Maybe the ending is actually quite fitting with everything else that happens, whether people like it or not. So right, okay, number 7, begrudgingly the best. Spielberg is War of the Worlds. Ellis, 2 each. Mate.
Both great films, though.
Yeah, both worth checking out for sure. Right, let's have a look. So number 6. It's The Crow. It's Crow v. Crow.
Cameron Crowe.
Yeah, so we kind of had these both of them. I had Jerry Maguire. I like Vanilla Sky. Very melancholy, bittersweet movie for me, Vanilla Sky, which is why I didn't really kind of leave it. I left off and went with Jerry Maguire. But I was glad when you hit that in, so I thought, right, okay, let's do the kind of Crow off. So Jerry Maguire for me, trying to speed this one up a bit. It's just a really good watchable movie which appeals to the masses. So second Oscar nomination for Tom Cruise. I think it was Best Actor in a Leading Role.
All right.
First being Born.
What was it? Right. That's another Tom Cruise film I haven't seen. Born 4th of July.
I haven't seen it. I've seen it and enjoyed it, but I haven't seen it recently enough to be able to kind of form a proper opinion on it. But yeah, Jerry Maguire I've watched a lot. I haven't seen it in a while, but I just think it's a solid, entertaining, kind of uplifting movie. Jerry Maguire, if kind of rom-coms, romantic dramas aren't really for you, then you're not going to have much fun with it. But it's funny. It's got a cracking soundtrack. It's got a really good performance from Tom Cruise, hitting a lot of ranges of different of emotion and stuff. Cuba Gooding Jr. won Best Supporting Actor, I think, for his role in it.
Did he really? Right.
Yeah, you get Renée Zellweger on fine form as well. And yeah, it's just an uplifting film, with a kind of quirky directing style of Cameron Crowe. I don't have much more to say about it all, and there's no way you're going to watch Jerry Maguire and not at the end of it be like, that didn't waste my time. That was fairly uplifting. All right, it gets a bit mushy, and the whole "You Complete Me" line at the end has been like parodied to death. But in
I
the
think that's the
90s,
exact
it had impact.
one reason I've never seen it. Because you've just heard that line so much. Like, whoa, sorry. But yeah, it's quite an interesting one because it's like this to me is like two sides of like the same coin. Like you've got Jerry Maguire, which is quite a happy sort of, and I'm saying this as someone who hasn't seen it, but I've seen enough clips to sort of make an opinion on it. Quite a sort of happy, uplifting, like you say. But then, yeah, Vanilla Sky is like the sort of opposite to that. It's very like nihilistic. It's a lot to do with vanity and stuff like that. Is it real? Is it not real? It's like Vanilla Sky is one of them films, and that can put someone off before going into a film. Like, was it all a dream? It's like one of them ones. Do you know what I mean? With Vanilla Sky, and you're either going to be on board with that or you're not. I really enjoy it though. I really like Penelope Cruz. I like Cameron Diaz. I think Vanilla Sky was based off a film a French film that had came out 3 years prior.
I think it was Spanish.
Right, maybe you're right.
Open Your Eyes. It's called.
Yes, correct.
And
I think
Penelope Cruz, the same role that she plays in Vanilla Sky.
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting one, that, and I haven't seen the Open Your Eyes, which I will go back and view now. Like I watched Vanilla Sky.
I haven't seen it either, mate. I just know about it.
Yeah, I watched Vanilla Sky to prepare for this week. It's a film that I've seen many years ago, but it's really I really like it. I think it's like the ultimate deconstruction of Tom Cruise, like in Vanilla Sky, like because he plays he's the owner of a magazine company. He's like a young 30s, like strappy young guy, like gets up at 9 o'clock, gets into work for like 10 o'clock in the morning, sort of type life. He's loads of penthouse. He's got everything he needs and wants. But I think
he doesn't have anything. That's that angle, isn't it? He's got everything, but he doesn't really have anything.
Yeah, totally. And obviously the way he's quite misogynistic in like the way he treats like Cameron Diaz through like the start of the film. I think that's like it's all out there. Like this guy isn't gonna have a great time through this film. And yeah, man, when like the main like catalyst of the film and the accident happens, and it's just quite interesting working out what's real and what's not real from that point onwards in the film. I think the ending's a little bit it's ambiguous, as like you can talk about the ending and what did it mean and stuff like that. You can really dissect it at the end of the film. I think it's one of them films that I would watch with my partner and we'd have a discussion about it afterwards, like a good discussion about it.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, Jerry Maguire, for example, you're getting to the end of that and probably 5 minutes later you won't be talking about it, because it's like self-contained. It's like there isn't much discussion to be had about it. It's I suppose there's parallels. It's the same director, so there's thematic parallels, I suppose. Parallels not the right word because they are totally different, but I mean, Jerry Maguire's about a guy who like is with the wrong woman, and it's like there's a great guy in Jerry Maguire, but it hasn't been like you've not seen it, obviously, mate, right? But like, at the beginning, he's with Kelly Preston, who's all out for herself, totally nihilistic, like type of person that would be plastering herself all over Instagram if it was a thing. And Tom Cruise is the trophy husband as opposed to like the kind of other way about from the 90s. And there's this great partner in Tom Cruise's character, Jerry, and the humility in him and the kind of the good guy in him comes out when he's dealing with he's a sports agent, so when he's dealing with I think he's called the king of the king of the living room. That's what he's called. That's his nickname because he goes into the living room and he gets the deals. He gets them to sign on because he hits them from the human angle and he relates to them. He wins the hearts of the family and he gets the agents to sign. And he's very much kind of like he's all about the player. Or he started off being all about the player, and it was like few clients but good service, humility. And but where we find him at the beginning, he's kind of like he's part of a big company. And that's maybe the window of it. It's about just get them to sign on. Who cares? Like tell them what they need to hear. Get them to sign on. The minute they fall out of favour, we're not going to be there for them. We're all about who's the next hot prospect. And he basically kind of like gets sick of that life, bins everything off, and then tries to get back to his roots of what, you know, being the good guy, being the agent that he was when he started out, as he meets Renee Zellweger. And it's kind of like, and he has teething problems, but by the end of it, you know, he kind of falls in love with her, and you feel like the diamond in the rough is like revealed, and that really deep down he's this family guy just wanting to get out, and he's going to offer so much to Renee Zellweger, and he's going to be a great family man going forward. So there's that, which I feel like is teased in Vanilla Sky as well. It's maybe a film about consequence and stuff, and like he lives his life he lives his way. Lives his life a certain way for a long time, and then he meets the right person who he could maybe have that Jerry Maguire lifestyle with. But there's that debate of, yeah, but you've been a dick until now, and you can't just you can't shed that skin overnight, kind of thing.
You sort of like Tom Cruise in Vanilla Sky is not a very like a rootable character to root for at all. And in fairness, like thinking about the movie now, like it doesn't have that much of an arc like in the film. Like I don't want to like just totally spoil Vanilla Sky because I feel like it's a movie that some people still haven't seen by
it's not as like mainstream as Jerry Maguire, I would suggest.
No, and I think if you go in completely blind with Vanilla Sky, it's a better experience. But I like the cast in it, man. Like Kurt Russell, like I totally forgot he was in it as well, like playing his therapist. Yeah, but and Tilda Swinton's in it for 5 minutes, but she's in it right at the end. She's the owner of the she's the owner of the Life Foundation that's like that's hinted at. I don't want to get any more into that one, but like it'll just spoil the whole film. But I would highly recommend Vanilla Sky, definitely. And I can't recommend Jerry Maguire because I haven't seen it, but I would be okay with Jerry Maguire getting picked in this one because of how like of a staple of a movie that is. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a very all-rounded sort of movie. But my only like argument to that is that you'll still be talking about Vanilla Sky an hour maybe after you were talking about Jerry Maguire. That's all.
That's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking if I'm trying to make this list for everyone, for the mainstream, you know, for like to be a safe bet, then the obvious choice is to recommend Jerry Maguire. However, I just for personal taste, I probably agree with you, Ellis, that like Vanilla Sky is more interesting. I don't think it's as good. I don't think it's a better performance from Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire, I would say. But
all right.
Because it's kind of like what you said. There isn't as much of an arc. He's a bit lost, isn't he, throughout the film? And I think it's like he's a good casting because, like you say, he fits the bill at that time in 2000 because he was kind of like the Hollywood, one of the biggest stars of the time, and he kind of has that life, or you can imagine him having that lifestyle in real life. So
yeah, totally. I don't. That's exactly
so
it. Like
he's a great casting, brilliant.
Yeah, man. 100%.
Brilliant casting. There's some cracking shots, like the bit at the beginning, and the soundtrack to Vanilla Sky is fantastic.
Awesome.
But so is Jerry Maguire, but on a more.
Andy, you should definitely pick out the two here because you've seen them both. I haven't seen both of these movies.
You can't do this to me.
Put it on you. Put it on you.
I know. Right, okay. Now, if I have to pick, what one do I want to go and watch right now after that discussion? Probably Vanilla Sky. Let's just be blunt about it. It's Vanilla Sky. Like, I think, kind of going in the underrated angle, people probably haven't seen this as much, and I think it gets unfairly written off because everything you mentioned Vanilla Sky, I see it mentioned anywhere else. It's always, you should see the original. You should watch the original. It's much better. You're like, it might be, but that doesn't mean it's not worth. It's not worth checking it out. I had fun with it. I've not seen the original. Maybe it is better, but I think
it's interesting that it was only a few years apart, and it's got Penelope Cruz in. Like that fascinates me. That makes me want to go and watch the original sort of type thing. In fact, I want to go and watch more Cameron Crowe interviews about Vanilla Sky because I think it's such an interpretive sort of movie that like there's a lot of questions that sort of still need answering after Vanilla Sky. I know that people might hear that and go, what? But I like it, man. It's quite interpretive. It's good.
I wish I'd watched it more recently because I feel I want to talk about more what I take from it, but it's been a long time since I've actually seen it. So I have seen it a couple
Rewatch
of
it
times.
just for yourself, and let us know what you thought about it after the rewatch, man.
Let's say Vanilla Sky, mate. So yeah, you've not seen Jerry Maguire. It'd be easy for me just to say Jerry Maguire, but both seen that. We're both saying it's good, so let's recommend that. This is the joint thing, so let's recommend Vanilla Sky. Makes sense to me. Number 5. Tom versus the Titans. So this is a lot. Did you not come up with this? Did I come up with this?
I think you did. Titans.
Aye, we can't. We were looking for a pairing. I had this. I had Colour of Money. You had A Few Good Men. I like them both. Have A Few Good Men in 4K. Used to have Colour of Money in DVD, but don't currently have it in any format. But yeah. So it's Titans in that, obviously, it's Tom Cruise basically holding his own with Paul Newman, who's obviously a legend of Hollywood, and in A Few Good Men, he's holding his own against, quite literally holding his own against Jack Nicholson. Right, so Colour of Money. I think I watched Colour of Money before watching A Few Good Men. But yeah, so Colour of Money for me, Martin Scorsese film. A forgotten Martin Scorsese film, isn't it? You never hear like people talking about it. You never see it in like top 10.
I did not know that at all.
Did you not know that?
I didn't know that. No, not Martin Scorsese.
Aye, it's a Martin Scorsese
No
film.
way. Oh, I didn't know that. No,
you might not know this as well, but so Colour of Money is actually a sequel to an old 60s film with Paul Newman called The Hustler. So the original film in the 60s is about Paul Newman as a pool player who's basically learning to be a hustler, and I won't kind of spoil it for people, but kind of learns a few life lessons by the end the hard way. And it's fairly bleak ending, I think. But one of these kind of like life lesson, you know, he's a con man. There's always a better con man kind of story.
Yeah.
Bites off a bit more than he can chew, kind of thing. And that's where it's kind of left. Long time since I've seen it, but it's a bit of a kind of classic from Paul Newman's catalogue, a notable one from him. So I'm assuming Martin Scorsese digs that film because he's made Colour of Money. So Colour of Money, Paul Newman plays Fast Eddie Felsen, and that's who he plays in The Hustler. So we've now got Fast Eddie Felsen 20 years after getting that kind of tough life lesson, and he bumps into Tom Cruise and kind of sees himself in Tom Cruise and takes it upon himself to kind of turn Tom Cruise into him. But there's always that ulterior motive in it. Like, it's not just out the goodness of his heart because he's a con man at the end of the day. It's kind of like, I'm going to take this guy in the wing and like, I'm going to make him into something that I can make money of. But then it becomes this kind of rivalry. Tom Cruise kind of sniffs that. Or Vince, I can't remember his second name. Vince, the character, kind of starts to realise himself, wait a minute here, like I can go on here, like this old guy's kind of holding me back / trying to exploit me. But it's just like it's a good movie, and it's made by Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, you know, kind of button heads and that kind of like uneasy father-son relationship. But the weight of Martin Scorsese and the directing chair is evident throughout, you know, the kind of class that's there, and he definitely coaxes cracking performances out of the two of them. And it's got that amazing scene where like he's basically teaching them not to, like, first rule of being a hustler is people can't know you're good at pool. So he's like, you need to go to new towns and you need to like blend in, play shit, and then obviously hustle. And Tom Cruise was still a young guy though, so he's like, nah, I just like playing pool. So he kind of like rebels one night and goes into like the local pool hall and just starts playing, like, for the sake of playing, the best pool you've ever seen, kind of thing. And it's the Werewolves of London, you know, and he's like potting balls for fun, like blindfolded, one-handed and all that. And it's just an amazing like round table swirly shot that Scorsese does. And then Eddie Felsen comes in, doesn't he? And he's kind of like, he's just like, because I think he gets a tip off that he's down there making a scene, and he comes in and he's absolutely raging. But it's just
Colour of Money isn't one I've seen before. That's one of my blind spots. Sorry, Andy, I'm just plugging my phone in. My phone's about to die.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you'd seen that one. Sorry, I thought you'd seen that one.
That was my blind spot. 2 seconds, mate. There we go. Back in action, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely on the list to watch. 100%. and The Hustler. When did The Hustler come out? What year was that?
I can't say for certain. I'm going to have a stab in the dark and say 1962, but it's definitely 60s anyway. Early 60s.
Cool, man. Cool. I'll check it out. But A Few Good Men, mate. What a film this is, man. I love it. I think this is brilliant. I think like talk about like having like a matchup with a Titan. It's best Joker of all time, Jack Nicholson. No, I'm only joking. Possibly Heath Ledger. Different. That's a different stream for a different time. But anyway, Jack Nicholson in this film. He's not actually in the film that much, is he? He's only in it about 25 minutes. I think he's in it about 10 minutes at the start and 20 minutes at the end.
Oh, but it counts as double, doesn't it? Because everything he does is so good that it's like it feels like
so
another film. Yeah,
so good. And I think Tom Cruise, man, I think this is like, for me anyway, in like the films I've seen from Tom Cruise, this is like I am an actor and I can run with the best, like the best of the best. Like it's phenomenal. Yeah. Like that, the whole end scene with him against Jack Nicholson just plays out so good. He's so good in it. I like the rest of the cast. Demi Moore, obviously, 2 thumbs up from me. But yeah, man, like I love it. It's one of them. I only saw this the first time a couple of years ago. It wasn't one I've like watched on repeat. It's I don't know, the poster never really took with me. I'm not like big into war films or anything like that, but it's not really a war film. It's more of a courtroom. It's a courtroom drama, which is like, you know, someone like my partner would love it. Just like on the aesthetic and on the outside exterior of it, it's just looks like a Navy standard war film about Tom Cruise joining the army, but it's not. It's like a full-on courtroom drama, and I really appreciate it for that. But I just think as far as like this category goes and like against Titans, like what bigger Titan is there to go against Jack Nicholson in a courtroom drama? Like, so the focus is primarily on them. You haven't got like exterior extras or different characters. Like the focus is on them two in that courtroom. I just think it goes down tremendous.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. I don't think we need to talk about it a huge amount more. What I would say about the colour money is it's like I would say Nicholson's more of a Titan than Paul Newman, although Paul Newman's a great actor. Was a great actor. Yeah. But like, yeah, so in Colour of Money, it's about these 2 guys starting off as friends and then thereafter trying to out-hustle each other till the end, which is entertaining and pretty slick, you know, the direction from Martin Scorsese. So it's definitely fitting. It's definitely worthy of a spot in Titan, and you know, Tom versus Titans. You know, it's like a young Tom Cruise like holding his own against a kind of like, it mirrors the film. It's like it's the young up and coming actor taking on the experienced like Wiley Fox.
Yeah,
cool, like because obviously Paul Newman was similar, like in a pin-up kind of like Hollywood heartthrob with the talent to match, and that's kind of what Tom Cruise is or was at the time. So there's that kind of like off-camera subtext, and that's what it's been a brilliant casting, you know, to cast them in those roles, and the added touch of it being a kind of like sequel adds that little bit of spice to it as well. But yeah, I think you're right though, mate. I think when you strip it back, A Few Good Men, that like nobody, even I'm struggling to remember a specifically iconic scene between Paul Newman and Tom Cruise in Colour of Money, whereas like how can you can't handle the truth and all that, you know, did you order the code?
You can't handle the truth. Yeah, it's so good, man. Yeah.
But,
so good.
There's so many great lines from Jack Nicholson as well in that movie. Like, but yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think we're gonna have to go with A Few Good Men. I think I've had to like Colour of Money's worth checking out, and like it's a film that I've watched a lot and really enjoy. But I think just for sheer how iconic it is and the impact and that one particular scene, we've got to give it to A Few Good Men.
It's worth it for the last 20 minutes alone. So good.
I don't think it's much. I think it's probably a bit more of an engaging watch throughout Colour of Money, the stuff that happens.
Whereas, it sounds a bit more intriguing. Like there's obviously like more of an arc in that film where like A Few Good Men, it is literally from the get-go, there's not much there. It's just like it is Tom Cruise against Jack Nicholson in this courtroom. Like it's not all set in the courtroom for the full film. Like there's like an hour set up to the court, then the rest of the film's like sort of in the court. But yeah, man, it's just like acting goes. I think Tom Cruise is like doesn't bat an eyelid in the whole film, man. Like he's so good in it, so good.
Yeah, I think like Jack Nicholson's so awesome in that scene, and like the fact that but it's only so good because you know he's against Tom Cruise's performance is awesome as well, you know. So yeah, they both make it. Like there's not without the Tom Cruise you wouldn't get. I know they do this, they shoot them separately the scenes, but without the two of them putting those performances together, that scene isn't going to be memorable. So yeah, let's give it to A Few Good Men. I'm on board with that one, mate. Okay, so yeah.
Andy, can you excuse me for 1 minute? Just 1 minute. I'll be back in one moment. Is that okay?
Of course, mate. Yeah, of course, mate. So Ellis has disappeared, and you're left with your host, Andy, ElectricGeek. So we're halfway through. We'll try and speed things up a bit. We've got about 20 minutes to an hour to try and wrap this up. I hope you're enjoying it. Really sorry about the comments thing, guys. I don't know what's going on with that, but I will be having a good troll through them all, and I'll try and reply to them in the replay. And if you've been trying to enter into the competition, I'll make sure they still count, so don't worry about that. So yeah, let me know, because I'll read them later on, what you think at the halfway stage of this. As I say, it's obviously subjective, but we just try to make it interesting, try to make the pairings interesting, thematic, to create a bit of debate. And I've certainly enjoyed it so far, so hopefully you guys have as well. But yeah, so next up, I'll kind of introduce and start talking about the next one then. So next up we have number 4. So we have best dramas, best kind of weighty dramas, shall we say. So we've got the clash of the 1999 movies. So it's Magnolia, Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia, against Ellis's pick of Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. Like them both, not seen either of them a huge ton. Watched Magnolia once or twice fairly recently, so that was probably the one that's easier to recall and kind of chat about for me. But yeah, Magnolia, the last Oscar nomination for Tom Cruise, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for his performance as Frank T.J. Mackey. Quite unusual, and kind of like Vanilla Sky, where you can kind of imagine, like, really well cast, you can almost imagine Tom Cruise particularly being like this character in real life. I think Tom Cruise did come from a broken home. Don't think he had a father figure in his life. Tom Cruise is an actor, for all he's massive, there isn't a huge amount known about his personal life. He's quite private. But yeah, back to the movie. Fantastic scene when he's kind of like speaking with his dad on the deathbed. The range of emotion that he kind of displays there is amazing and quite frighteningly authentic, as though he really is channeling something from his own like method acting it. But yeah, the whole T.J. Mackey thing, as much as it's so overly sexist, it's unbelievable. That's obviously thematic to the movie and to the character, is just, I mean, quite mesmerising to watch, and he delivers it like so well. Because Tom Cruise,
sorry, mate, I'm back.
Yeah. Tom Cruise always has that kind of maniacal quality, even in real life. Just lends itself to troubled characters, which you don't see enough of. I'm just talking. I've just went on to number 4, mate. I'm just kind of talking about Magnolia just now. So yeah, just talking about how good a performance it is from Tom Cruise. Won him another nomination for best actor in a supporting role. Talking about how he's just a great casting for Frank T.J. Mackey, and kind of steals the show a wee bit as him. He's the most memorable character, I think, from it. But yeah, Magnolia is a kind of strange film. It's not for everyone. I'm not an expert on Paul Thomas Anderson, but I think it's got a cracking soundtrack. I think it's like another thought-provoking one that you think about some crazy stuff. Happens.
What is the ending all about, man? That ending is always just like, what the hell's going on there? But I don't know, man. Magnolia's a good one. Tom Cruise is literally the best thing about Magnolia, like 100%.
Yeah, totally deserved the Oscar nomination. I think. Can I just say I think it's criminal that man's not won an Oscar. I hope he wins one at some point. But yeah, I think like for everything he's done plenty of performances that he could have or showcased at least in some roles. You know, even like Mission Impossible. You know, like not saying he should have won an Oscar for Mission Impossible 3, but you know he showcases at times like a range that's super impressive, and I don't understand how he's got
It's
as
really
far as he's
weird.
got.
Like I don't know how you feel about it, but like Tom Cruise, like as he's got older, the action sort of ramped up. So like he's done a lot of his sort of like Oscar type roles in the late 80s, early 90s sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like he's had like the opposite thing where when he was younger, doing more dramas and stuff. When he's older, now he's like action superstar, stuntman hero. Like
I feel like he's been on a 20-year midlife crisis, basically. Like he kind of like got to the turn of like we've not really talked about him as a person, which I don't really want to too much because that's not what it's about. Because that's a stream in itself.
100%, Andy, 100%. And like his personal life for me, just like I don't really care because I love his movies that much now. Like it just I don't.
Yeah, I'm always of that vein with him as well. But I do acknowledge, especially now that I'm a dad myself and stuff. I do think it's a bit strange, some of his life choices. And, you know, he's definitely a complicated and interesting character. I'd love to see like a film Netflix deep dive documentary about Tom Cruise.
Like a Val Kilmer documentary style thing, but for Tom Cruise.
I don't know if we'll ever see it. I think he's super, super private and he's got a lot of like power. You know, that he'll stop stuff like that from happening. But like...
all I'll say is that, like in interviews and stuff like that, like he comes across as like a really sound guy, and he's dead engaging with any interviewer that he's been interviewed by. But I thought that was awesome. Like in the pandemic situation there, and there was that clip of him going off on the 2 crew members. Can you remember it? Like he goes absolutely nuts at them. I think because they were filming is it Dead Reckoning at the time, and crew members didn't have a mask on or whatever, and he went. I agreed with him though. Like everything he was saying in that argument,
I agreed as well.
I was on board with it.
I mean, you're just jumping in. You don't know the background, but yeah, from what you pick up from it, you understand. He's like in charge. He's not just an actor. He's the producer. Like everything rests on his shoulders. He's also a perfectionist. He's got huge amounts of energy. He's passionate about what he does, and he kind of understands that like cinemas and stuff are riding on these big blockbusters off the back of COVID to kind of stay afloat. And, you know, crew members going down with COVID by taking unnecessary risks are just like, that's not going to fly with him, is it? Because it's like,
no,
he sees the bigger picture. And so I can understand.
All eyes were on them at
shoulder,
the time.
You know, he's shouting at a crewman who like does a job and then goes back to like his trailer at night and that's it. He's carrying the weight of everything. And he's obviously stressed out, and then he sees that happen, and he goes off the handle. I'm not saying you should speak to people like that, but can I understand where it came from? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, as I say, we'll get back to it. But yeah, so sorry, where are we? Oh, so where were we? Let's get that back up to me. So yeah, we're on Magnolia Nice White Shirt. I think Magnolia is not for everyone, but it's purely for Tom Cruise's performance. It had to be mentioned and deserves to be as high up, I think, as it is for that reason. It's a cracking film, bit strange. I would say read the ending. It's one of these disjointed films where it's like very individual human episodes that are happening, which was kind of popular at the time, wasn't there? There's a lot of films about the turn of the millennium like that, Crash and all that. It was Tarantino to an extent as well, kind of introduced that, the whole kind of like multiple stories going on.
That sort of connect.
They all kind of ended up coming together, and like all I can think of is the mental raining of the frogs. Like, it's kind of like a cosmic joke almost at the end. But it's like doesn't all this stuff's happening, but we're all on the same earth, and we're all going through it together. There's like unity at the end by something as silly as like raining frogs. That's kind of like, and that's what brings all the stories together, kind of thing. But like. Totally spoiled Magnolia for everyone, so sorry about that. But yeah, that's what I thought on it. Anyway, Eyes Wide Shut, mate. I'll let you take the floor with Eyes Wide Shut, and I'll for a quick comfort break.
Yeah, man. So, Eyes Wide Shut, last Stanley Kubrick film. For me, it's a bit of a weird one. It's not necessarily, I think, one of Tom Cruise's best performance, but it's quite an interesting one. It's like verging on a horror film for me, and I almost feel like it was Stanley Kubrick, because obviously he passed away after the film. That was his way of saying, oh, by the way, guys, this shit's going on. The shit is going down. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the mystery. It's a lot like Magnolia. It's not for everyone, but I just think there's more of a mystery when it comes to Eyes Wide Shut. There's horror vibes in there. It obviously deals with the cult aspect of the rich and the powerful and the famous. But yeah, man, in Eyes Wide Shut, where he eventually gets to the house and all that stuff's going down within the house. Yeah, it's eye-opening stuff, definitely. I love Nicole Kidman. I like how she's definitely weird in the film, but I think it suits the vibe of the film. Yeah, man. But as a drama goes, I'm a big fan of Eyes Wide Shut. I'm not actually the biggest fan of Magnolia, and when I was whittling down my top 10 list, Magnolia wasn't on it. For me, I've always seen Magnolia, and I've always seen Tom Cruise's part as a bit of a glorified step up from a cameo. But I know that isn't the case, because there's not one particular lead in Magnolia, whereas Eyes Wide Shut, you're very much following Tom Cruise through this journey, and I love all the tracking shots of him walking through New York and stuff like that, and the bits on his journey of the different people he interacts with and meets on the way. Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut for me is it's a bit of an underrated Tom Cruise film, and I think it's an underrated Stanley Kubrick film as well. I don't know what the mass opinion is on Eyes Wide Shut, but yeah, Magnolia, cool film. Personally, if it was me choosing out these two, it'd be definitely Eyes Wide Shut. Magnolia, a little bit of an acquired taste, same as Eyes Wide Shut. I was just mentioning there, Andy, they're both not for everyone, these films. 100%. These aren't your Edge of Tomorrows or Oblivions or anything like that. They're quite nuanced in what audience would be watching them.
Yeah, no, I agree. So it makes it quite difficult to choose. I was kind of listening in the background there, mate, to what you were kind of mentioning with regards Eyes Wide Shut. You're talking about it being can we argue that it's almost a cameo from Tom Cruise and Magnolia, whereas he is front and center, the lead of Eyes Wide Shut. It's interesting because it's the real life bleeds into Eyes Wide Shut, which is quite unique. You know that you can't, as much as it's a film and they're playing characters, it is still Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, with a real life married couple, having very intimate and difficult scenes and dealing with difficult like themes on. And the fact that like I think it was about a year after that they separated, wasn't it? So there's always that, whether that had anything to do with it or not. I'm sure that the issues why they separated, you know, were long in the making before that. But it just adds a bit of like more serious weight to the film.
I think that's why I like it. I think that's why I appreciate it a little bit more. There's just something a little bit more to grab onto there, like what we were saying with Vanilla Sky. Like this was a film me and my partner talked about for hours on end after we watched it. Like she really likes Eyes Wide Shut. It's like she likes the whole aspect of like the ending and like that cult aspect where he eventually arrives at the house and there's all this weird shit going down. I don't know, man. It's very like in your face, and I just think it's never a film that gets mentioned in that Kubrick like we, you know, when someone's doing like a top 5 Kubrick films or whatever, it would not normally go in that list. But
I definitely
I
think
really
for
like
some,
it.
I think for some people, critics and stuff, Tom Cruise is not cool. You know, like he's like, because Tom Cruise is involved with stuff, they don't want to give anything any kudos. It's probably what I think it's a reason why he's never won anything as well. Like back in the day, it's almost like
Yeah.
he's never been taken serious enough as an actor, which I think is totally crazy.
What I found interesting about Tom Cruise is like preparing to do this stream and stuff and going back and watching some films. I didn't realize how much he's actually produced. So I thought that was like a recent thing, like the last 10 years.
Mid-90s.
Yeah, man. Like he's produced an awful lot of movies, man. Obviously the movies that he's been in, but
Mission Impossible was his like baby. I think the first movie he produced alongside Paula Wagner, like when it was Cruise and Wagner Productions, was Mission Impossible. And then eventually Wagner got, like, for whatever reason, kind of like got bought out, or they went their separate ways, and it's obviously now like just his production. I can't remember do you know what his production team's called?
I don't, Andy. I don't.
I can't remember either. I know that Wagner's not as involved as she was, but yeah, there's all like so many films that he's produced. I don't know how many he like executive produces that he isn't really like involved in. Because I think he's a very, very much a hands-on guy, and he does his own thing. But yeah, going off a tangent, but you're right, mate. Like the sheer amount of work that he does, regardless of what you think of him, is like ridiculous. The range that he's done, the amount of genres he's crossed, you will really struggle to find an actor who can match that. Well, no matter what you think of him, like I can't.
He's
think
covered
of any...
all. He's covered all genres. Like it's insane. Like even like you try and like pull something out, like, oh, but what about a noir film? Oh well, Minority Report, like a science fiction noir film.
Yeah.
This is like maybe a little bit more straightforward noir, and Eyes Wide Shut, like very slow burn, slow moving. It's just got that continuous, like one note, like of the piano key through the whole thing. Gets a bit monotonous throughout the whole thing, but there's obviously a point towards it.
What I would say about Eyes Wide Shut over Magnolia as a watching experience is that if you just go in cold to either film, you will probably be sucked in by Eyes Wide Shut more, by its kind of like linear going on Tom Cruise's journey kind of style, whereas Magnolia is like a chop and change patchwork quilt of weirdness with some fantastic performances and clever scenes in that. But unless you go in kind of knowing this is going to be quirky, like, and I'm ready for that tonight, this is going to be an intellectual kind of movie, you might be easily distracted and drift off during Magnolia. Whereas I think if you watch Eyes Wide Shut, you'll be like, there's a creepiness, there's a sinisterness there's the erotic angle as well that will just like,
there's a lot going on, man.
It brings out the darkness in you, and you end up being like, you arrive at that party and you're like, all right, okay, I want to know what's going to fucking happen now.
Man.
Whether you're male or female, like either way, you're going to watch that and you're going to be like, okay. And that's what it's about. It's about indulging in like dark fantasy and the danger of like flirting with that, isn't it? Like, but
what I like about it doesn't seem far fetched though. Like it seems like maybe it's like there's stuff going on like this. Like I was saying earlier on when you left, like I'm saying like this was like Kubrick, like because I know he died like around about this time. This was like Kubrick saying, by the way, guys, I'm just going to leave you with this film, but this shit is actually going on. I'm just going to leave that there. This stuff's actually going on.
Ultimately, it's about a marriage, isn't it? It's about temptation and like disconnect.
Essentially, yeah.
You know, like he is unfaithful, or he kind of almost is unfaithful in a physical sense, but Nicole Kidman is unfaithful in a metaphorical, like, is that the right word? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't actually do anything. Doesn't even leave the house. She just tells him about a fantasy, and that like it's about the kind of like
gets him off.
The male ego as well. Like his ego's dented by just the thought, by a powerful little seed that didn't actually happen. Like sets him on this mad, dangerous like path, you know, of almost like self-destruction.
Yeah, you literally followed Tom Cruise, third-person point of view, going down this horrible rabbit hole.
Yeah,
and it's just,
and you're like, mate,
I like being on that journey.
It's like your wife had a dream, mate. Get a grip. Like, it's kind of
get over it, man.
Get over it. And then it comes to the end, and it's like the whole. I might not get this exactly right, but the whole line from Nicole Kidman of like that. It's like we need to go home and like fuck immediately.
Yeah,
like,
she just said at the end, there's one thing we absolutely need to do right now, and like that's
It's a brilliant ending, and again relatable and realistic, like, and just a great ending. I think it's a brilliant full stop for Kubrick's career.
Weirdly, it's sort of a happy ending. Like weirdly, I know it cuts off with that line, but their relationship feels like it's made a progression by the end of it.
And it's got there's a nastiness to that line still that is in keeping with the nasty events of the movie. Right, okay, mate.
Yeah, 100%.
I think everyone knows where this is going.
Eyes Wide Shut.
And agrees that it's Eyes Wide Shut. Right, okay. Let's do that. Great performance. Magnolia's worth checking out, and it's a fantastic performance from Tom Cruise. However, yeah, Eyes Wide Shut has probably got more appeal as a standalone movie. Getting there. We're getting there. We're in the top 3. Here we go.
Number 3.
So we arrive at like more sci-fi, but higher up the ladder. So do you want to start this one? Edge of Tomorrow. Did you get the 4K?
Edge of Tomorrow. No, I didn't.
No,
after the Blu-ray, the Blu-ray looks great, but I will get the 4K at some point. Definitely. Yeah. Wait until it gets a bit cheaper. But yeah, Edge of Tomorrow, man. So yeah, Groundhog Day Part 2, but that's fine. That's cool. Same sort of premise as Groundhog Day, but it's awesome, man. I think what's good about this film as far as Tom Cruise goes is that he's so unlikable at the start of the film. He's the ultimate coward. And I think that's sort of like a different side to Tom Cruise that we haven't seen. Like he's trying to initially get out straight away at the start. I think, is he not just a spokesperson in Edge of Tomorrow, right?
He had his own PR company before the war broke out, and then he's probably using that same skill set, blagged his way into like as an officer. He's obviously got the intelligence, been in that industry, got in as an officer, and basically carved himself a job within the military doing what he did anyway to avoid combat.
Like I love how smug he is at the start of the film, and he just thinks like, oh yeah, but then they're like, no, who's the is it Gleason? Is it Brendan Gleason?
Brendan Gleason is like the chief of the military commander.
Awesome actor, but he's like, no mate, you're going straight in front line, mate. Get yourself down. You're going in Bill Paxton's platoon. Let's go. So yeah man.
It's good.
I really enjoy it. Like, I think the whole thing's amazing. I think his arc and progression through the film is just awesome. There's like, starts off as coward and he's something else by the end of the film. Like he is your atypical action hero by the end of the film. Whereas the likes of Emily Blunt in it is like, she's just badass through the whole thing. She's awesome in that film. But she's the more straightforward, not much of a arc when it comes to Emily Blunt in the film. I think it's more about like Tom Cruise is literally this coward at the start, and by the end of it, he's this mean machine. Yeah, and you've got the like. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
He's an in your face, on the nose coward. Like the way the length he goes to at the beginning with that, and that scene with Brendan Gleeson, you know, where he's like starts trying to blackmail him and then literally runs away. he actually runs away.
Literally runs away.
And he gets tasered, and it's like, you know, you're like, up until then, so this is like what, 2014?
Yeah.
Again, I know this is real world. Cruise, like from a casting perspective, Cruise is now 10 years into his midlife crisis, as I put it earlier, and he's like a well-established action hero. So it was refreshing and funny to see him as like a shite bag, effectively, like for the first half of the movie. So I think that really works well.
I think it's great. I think it uses like I'm big on like practical effects. Like I'm a bit CGI'd out. It works in some areas, but I think there's a good mix of the two here. Like the suits that they all run about in, like they look great. From like, they might be CGI, but from the behind the scenes footage I've seen, it's like them literally running about with wires on in these big mech suits. It's great. And it's a highly rewatchable film as well, because it's obviously like Ground Day, so it just starts again every like 5 minutes every time he dies. But yeah, I just think it's an all-round great science fiction film. I think it falls apart slightly in the very last final sort of confrontation. Didn't really do much for me, but everything before that I think is amazing.
It's a kind of strange setting at the end. I know it ends in the Louvre, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and it's dark and dingy, and it's kind of like
that's what it is. That's yeah,
visually
visually,
it's like unsatisfying. Yeah, but it's supposed to be dystopian and like so that like it's always gonna be a bit bleak, isn't it? For wherever they decided to kind of end the movie, but the visuals on the beachhead are nice. You know, like the CGI works quite well. I thought, like with the
looks
background
amazing
scenery,
when it,
you know, to like with it, like Heathrow turned into like a staging point and all that. Pretty clever. The mimics, or whatever they're called themselves, are pretty good. And yeah, like it's well done. The Groundhog Day stuff is well done. Emily Blunt's well cast, and it even has like it has like it has a little bit of emotional weight to it. Like there's believability to the kind of the interesting idea that he is now madly in love with her, but she's none the wiser. And
I'm totally on board with that.
It's interesting that it then hinders the mission because he's got so far, but he doesn't actually. He's now basically stalling because he doesn't actually want to go any
what
further.
it reminds me of?
He'd rather live like in that false way to where he is than let it go further, which is quite.
It reminds me of 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
I know what you're talking about. I don't think I've seen it.
So she's got amnesia, like short-term amnesia. She has to like be reminded every single day for the rest of her life that Adam Sandler is her husband, basically. So like, or like partner or whatever. But yeah, it's got a similar angle to that. Like, but I do buy the relationship between Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise. I'm a sucker for it, just to see him like gradually fall in love with this person. She be a bit bewildered by the whole thing.
She's so cold. She's so cold as a person because we obviously find out as it goes on that she'd kind of lost her partner. So she's kind of constantly she's constantly in the headspace of like grieving for her ex. So she can never really give herself to Tom Cruise, and she never gets out of that mindset. So like, which makes it all that more poignant and kind of like bittersweet. You know that's the person he's stuck with is someone who's never really going to love him back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, it's
heartbreaking, really.
Yeah, but but then it's the happy ending at the end. Like it takes you to the depths of like it takes you to that bittersweet to then give you the hope at the end. So it's just like you say, great film, great premise, good performances. I remember it feeling like a breath of fresh air. Actually, like in Cruise's catalogue at the time, it was like, God, that was a shot in the arm. That was good. You know, some nice little cameos, like you say, Bill Paxton, Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, I think the problem with this film is that it came out a year after Oblivion. Like it felt like for me, it did feel like a breath of fresh air, as in the story did. But if you didn't watch this film and you initially just watched the trailer and the exterior like marketing for the film, like he'd already just released a science fiction film a year prior with Oblivion. Maybe it's a bit overload at the time, which is why I think Edge of Tomorrow didn't really do that well at the time. Do you know what I mean? I think it's grown more of a status as the years have gone on.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the rationale is. He does tend to do that, doesn't he? Like he does. We're talking about directors earlier. He tends to do a movie with, like, say, Spielberg, and then very quickly after he's like, yeah, let's do another. Cameron Crowe, a couple of years later, boom, like, yeah, let's do another project. Like, I wonder if it was the same with the science fiction, where he was kind of like, okay, I'm in a science fiction mood, like, yeah, boom, I'll take that script. Yeah, I'll take that script, and then and then he's like, fed up with that now. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. For me, right, Oblivion. I will admit straight away that Oblivion is a kind of plastic movie. So like, it doesn't have like, it's a wee bit soulless. It's a little bit hollow, but because it's a Tin Man of a movie, it like doesn't have the heart. It borrows like body parts from elsewhere, but it's so convincingly put together. So like, it doesn't have much heart, but it has like very catching visuals, great aesthetics. It's entertaining. It's coherent. Maybe you can see what's see the kind of twists coming, but you don't care because it just looks so amazing. I don't mind if a movie borrows from better films if it interprets them in a way that the better film didn't. And I think Oblivion does that visually. Like, it borrows from all these other films, but none of the films it borrows from looked as fantastic as Oblivion does. And I've got no problem with it. But yeah, the production design, the M83 score,
banging. It's great.
It's just banging. It's just so watchable, and it's almost got like a kind of cheesy ending, shall we say? Like, the one big thing that lets it down, I think, is the casting of Olga Kurylenko. Had there been more chemistry between Tom Cruise and the wife? Like, Andrea Riseborough is fantastic. She's a good actress.
Brilliant
Performance.
Yeah.
See if we could have had that a matching performance from the other female lead. This film might have been talked about more, but like, it's almost like not believable because it's almost like there's more chemistry. He's supposed to have no chemistry with her, and chemistry, but it feels the other way about. Like they're playing against the natural chemistry.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, 100%. Absolutely. Like, I think that just sort of miscast a little bit. No chemistry at all, really. And like, it makes such a big deal of that relationship being a big thing subconsciously in his head. Do you know what I mean?
That's the
he's having flashbacks.
Of the movie. It's like the whole movie is lynched on like the thing that wakens him up to the alien conspiracy, if you like, is the love he's supposed to have for the wife is what brings him back. You know, that unlocks the kind of human memories in this.
Yeah.
And this clone and makes him kind of find his humanity again and want to fight the good fight. But you don't believe it because because it feels false between the two leads, which is a shame. I think, if you'd put Emily Blunt, boom, Emily Blunt plays that role, then you're dealing with a different beast.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or even if you
I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%. Like, that relationship lets it down a bit. I think aesthetically it looks a bit clinical. I've always found it to be like you're waiting in like a really expensive like doctor's room. Do you know what I mean? Like a doctor's waiting room. Like the whole like
maybe too polished too.
It's just got no grit on its bones. You know what I mean? And that's fine. Like, that's cool. But like when you like, it's like the same different sides of the same coin argument again. You've got Edge of Tomorrow, which is very gritty and like gruff and oily and messy, whereas Oblivion's like your cool, calm sort of temperament vibe science fiction film. But I do enjoy it. It reminds me a lot of Moon, if you've seen Moon with Sam Rockwell. It's a great film.
Yeah, it's good. Duncan Jones maybe.
Yeah.
I've only seen Moon once and enjoyed it. I had to watch it again, actually. I actually bought Source Code today for a steal in my video.
Right, cool.
Just talking about Duncan Jones, but yeah.
Yeah,
so when it comes to Oblivion and Edge of Tomorrow, I think you're right. I think they're two different beasts. I just personally like Oblivion. I think if I was put under the gun, I would agree that Edge of Tomorrow is a better all-round movie. I just think Oblivion needs looked at, for being a great Nearly film. It's like a great Nearly film. It's worth checking out. Yeah, and it's
100%.
What's sad about it, it could have been. I think it could have been a better movie than Edge of Tomorrow had there been a few decisions made. Like maybe scale back the production value a little bit, invest it more in the cast, and we could have had a different beast altogether. But I'm a sucker for like the production value. It's one of the most just from a kind of pixel enthusiast, like someone who's a bit of a pixel peeper like I am. It's such a pleasing film in the eye. Like, it looks absolutely. The Blu-ray of it was like reference, and the 4K just takes up another notch. It just looks so pleasing to watch. It just really speaks to me. I love watching it. I love putting it on in the background because it's like watching. It's like 2 hours of art. Like, it's amazing.
Mate, it's fine. That's exactly what I do with Batman Forever. I just put it on in the background. I just let that shit go. Just let that shit roll.
Let it turn your whole room neon green. Like, But yeah,
doesn't need much more.
I'm willing to give you Edge of Tomorrow, mate. I just want Oblivion on people's radars. That's all. But I don't think
100%, and I definitely
don't think I can
concur
hand
with
in heart say. I don't think I can hand in heart say. I wouldn't feel right going to bed tonight saying that Oblivion was better than Edge of Tomorrow. So we'll go with Edge of Tomorrow.
For that. Call it.
Yeah, number 2. Top Gun. We can't talk about Tom Cruise and not be talking about Top Gun. This is like, for me, this is trying to compare Blade Runner with Blade Runner 2049. So difficult. So difficult. I'll start off with Top Gun, right? So here's my thought. It's the same thought I have for Blade Runner and stuff. Top Gun Maverick is amazing. Like, proper edge of your seat. Now, what I also had going for it was, as a cinema experience, was that we were craving that. We were just coming off of COVID. It kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And it's a big enough franchise that, you know, everyone's going to turn up for that, of all ages. Because the new people that haven't even seen Top Gun are going to go because it's Tom Cruise, it's a blockbuster, with all been cooped up in the house. And then you've got your people that haven't been to cinema for years going, that are just getting nostalgic and going, oh, Top Gun, here we go. Like, they just want to see the new. They didn't think they were getting a Top Gun sequel. So everybody came out for it, which I think it felt like a spectacle going to see Top Gun Maverick. And obviously, I was born in '86, so I was born the year that Top Gun came out. And I didn't see it in the cinema. But I grew up with it being so iconic. Computer games, like, you can't go, like, Maverick is like a household name, you know, like, you know, it's part of Maverick and Top Gun are so much part of the 80s.
This is part of pop culture in general.
If you haven't seen Top Gun, you kind of can't help but know what it's about, because you'll have just subconsciously like absorbed what Top Gun is without even having to actually watch it. So I watched Top Gun just before on 4K, just before going to see Maverick, and it holds up. It's awesome. It's actually quite a sad film, and it's a film not really about much. It's kind of, when you think like Maverick has got scale and it's got character arcs and all the rest of it. Top Gun's a bit Silver Stubbson's, and there's a life lesson in there. It's quite tragic, and it kind of deals with loss and all that at the end, and it kind of ends quite sadly. Like, Maverick, he kind of, he's not really dealt with Goose's loss. He's just kind of learned that he can get over it, but he's not got over it. And then it's kind of like, you didn't win Top Gun, mate. You've lost your best mate. But yeah, thanks for the ride. That's kind of like how it ends. Yeah. And it's good that it got the sequel, because it's almost a shame to leave Maverick in that nick.
I know, like, at the end of Top Gun, his legacy almost seems like a little bit in the bin, but by the time you get to Top Gun Maverick, it totally changes the game. Yeah. I can't argue much with Top Gun, man. Like, I don't. It's obviously one of them like classic things you can say. Oh well, you wouldn't have Maverick if you didn't have Top Gun. Do you know what I mean? Like, one of them classic statements that'll be getting said. But I don't know. Like, I'll struggle with this one because I really like Top Gun. Like I'm a bit style over substance. So like Tony Scott's like direction.
I can be like that. I can be like that.
And mate, bloody Kenny Loggins like music for the whole thing is just like, it's so cheesy but so good and so right.
Let's say this. Let's get this out of the way. What's got the better soundtrack? We don't have to think about this.
86.
Of course it is. Like, nothing was ever going to touch it. I think Top Gun Maverick tries its best and might like the 86 one has like get better with time as it like matures and becomes more nostalgic, but nothing's touching Danger Zone. Like, the fact that they had to have Danger Zone in the new one, kind of like,
oh man, how good was that? Was that?
But like, it kind of like straight away is like, it's kind of, it's like, no matter what song choice you go with here, like,
it's downhill from here.
Still in your head. Danger Zone is still here. It's like just reminding you. But I thought there was some good choices, but it does feel like bonus tracks to the 86 soundtrack. If it was one big album, it'd be like, the 2022 Maverick soundtrack is just like those little bonus tracks that you could live without at the end. Whereas Top Gun soundtrack's just Danger Zone,
It's next level.
Playing with the
Next level.
Boys, Mighty Wings,
Yeah, man.
Take My. I love
Yeah.
Take My Breath. I absolutely love Take My Breath. Take My Breath Away
Mate,
is a song I'll never get tired of hearing, and it's cheesy as in, but it just hits me right in the feels.
Absolutely, man. For me, Maverick is like, I don't know. I've got to watch it again. Like, it's really weird. Like, I'm just thinking about my top 10 list of like the year so far, and I think it comes in at like number 2. I think. Have to watch it again. I'm not sure yet, but
Yeah, I do think I've had too many Desperados now to remember what I've watched this year. But yeah, it'll be in the top anyway. It'll be in the top 3.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, Maverick just sort of like takes the baton and like absolutely propels itself into like next level, man. I wasn't expecting much whatsoever. Like, if I'm being totally honest, the trailers for Top Gun and stuff weren't really doing much for me beforehand. I was always going to go and watch it, but it wasn't something that I was like biting my teeth. I wasn't like that bothered when it was kept getting delayed and stuff. But I actually therefore think it made like you were saying, you're right in like it's the movie that we needed at that time. Like, I know we'd had the Batman just before it, but that's like a 3-hour like detective noir story that you've got to sort of settle into. Whereas like Top Gun's like, it's like greeting an old friend. So as soon as you sit down to watch Maverick and that font comes on and you're like, right, they've got the font right, they've got the font. Then the music comes on, you're like, oh shit, here we go. It propels itself. It's like so good. I love it in like the start montage as well, where it's like obviously mirroring the same montage from Top Gun, like the OG film. But there's like one shot in Maverick, like right at the start, and it's the guys like waving the planes on and like the shooting off, and there's like a 1-second clip, and like some guy's got like his top off, high vis on, and like pink aviators. It's like it's briefly on clip for like 1 second, but it's like so 80s, but like obviously in Maverick in this 2022
I need
film.
to check that one out. I think
keep an eye open for it.
I'd spilt like the sour cream for the nachos, and there was a bit of a domestic ongoing, and the
oh no.
So like I can't really remember. I didn't really appreciate that. And the guy next to me was like totally tutting, giving it like
he's fucking
dates
sour
like
cream
next to me kind of thing. I like he's waited 30 years to see this, and he's now got a clown next to him like throwing sour cream all over the place. But no, it's awesome. Tom Cruise does a fantastic job of revisiting that character. So that's a hard thing to do, I think, after such a long time, and he gets it right. Like, you never feel like he's lost. You feel like Maverick's always been there. Sometimes you see, like Bruce Willis, for example, right? Not to speak ill of Bruce Willis, because it's kind of apparent now what's happened to him in the last few years.
Yeah.
But Bruce Willis loses John McClane, I think, as the franchise goes on. Like he's each time it's like a cheaper copy of the original. Whereas I think, which all right, he's had to do it 5 times. Tom Cruise only had to do it once, like revisit it once. But I just think he nails what Maverick would be 30 years on. It's got the emotional weight. You do that scene with Val Kilmer. It's got a much more satisfying kind of like. It's got a much more satisfying narrative than like. A bit more of an upbeat ending as well than like Top Gun had. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because it obviously paved the way for to be rounded off nicely with this sequel. But yeah, I do think, when I think about it, I think as much as the soundtrack is 100 times better than the original, I think it's hard to say that Top Gun Maverick isn't the better film by some distance. But there's still loads of fun and rewatch value in the OG, and just the fact that it's always going to be like Top Gun as an original movie is a total like cultural phenomenon. Top Gun Maverick will always be remembered as like an amazing sequel. It won't be remembered as like something that impacted on culture the way that
a movement, basically.
A movement, yeah. The way that it's just an extension of that movement. But if we're talking about, I feel like Joseph Kosinski hit the crossbar there in the last round, and I think he should be. I think if we were to go Maverick this time around, it'd be fitting for Mr. Kosinski. What are you thinking yourself? Maybe that's a hot take.
What to go with Maverick?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be Maverick. Like, it's got to be, like, even down to the fact that Tom Cruise is now an actual pilot, like piloting his own like F-20s or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. There's just as like a theatre going experience this year, it was amazing. Like, I went with my brother, like my older brother, and we just had like the best time. Like, as soon as that intro for Maverick, like the font and that montage alone, we just looked at each other and just, we knew what we were going to be in for the next 2 hours, and it was amazing. So as much as Top Gun is like a cultural like moment in time and stuff, I just think Maverick's got more going for it in many areas apart from just the soundtrack and the cultural movement.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a much more polished version of like, and you've got now Tom Cruise, this like mature, developed filmmaker, actor, person, and he just that all gets brought to the sequel. Really well cast, all the supporting cast.
Whoever played Hangman, great.
Hangman's great.
Is it Hangman?
Yeah, he's a bit of a comedy cop. People like, he's understandably compared to Val Kilmer's Iceman, but he's still his own character. But yeah, I think Miles Teller was a great casting. Like, if somebody said who would you cast to play Goose's son, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Like, you'd think anyone but Tash. But like, Miles Teller had never had a Tash in any of the films that I'm aware of, and yet, boom, there he is. Like, you know, now that you've seen Miles Teller playing Goose's son, you're like, it can't be anyone else, kind of thing.
Yeah, as soon as I come out of it, I was half tempted to go and get shavers and just go, this is it. Just going to get a Tash on and go, let's go.
He's definitely made Tashes popular. I know, I thought about it as well, just going bold and just getting rid of
yeah, man.
So I struggle.
Why not?
I struggle here, but I've got a solid Tash, so maybe it would work. Maybe what people are saying in the comments about that, but I don't know.
We'll never know, man, until afterwards. We'll go in the comments afterwards and go like, you two, man, bloody hell.
But yeah, let's go with, so number 2, our favourite flavour of Top Gun is Top Gun Maverick. That's what we're going with. But kudos, like 86 is a classic. It can be in anyone's top 10, that one. On to the last one, mate. The final. And I'm actually nervous about this because it's quite out there, man. Maybe people aren't going to be expecting this. I don't think.
I didn't think it was out there, but go on. Let's see where we go.
Like one's almost. Well, let's just go with it. Let's not talk about it. Here we go. I don't know what happened at the beginning of that there, but it is for number one. Her number one, we'll explain in a second, is Fallout. Mission Impossible Fallout is my choice, and Ellis has gone with Collateral. Michael Mann's Collateral from 2004. So I'll let you start off, Ellis.
I'll start off, right?
Really best.
Collateral, right? I'm not going to spend too long on it, but I just think the combination of Michael Mann, Tom Cruise, and Jamie Foxx in like this new iteration and style of Michael Mann filming. Like, if you look at a few films of Michael Mann's like catalog around this time, like this, the Miami Vice, Public Enemies, they're all shot in a certain way. It's like really weird. I don't know whether they're like the frames are sped up or something, but like they've got a certain style to them. They look phenomenal. But as far as Tom Cruise goes in Collateral, I just thought, you know, like we don't see Tom Cruise as like the straight up villain a lot of the time. And I just think he plays him so well. And like they give him a total new look with the grey hair and stuff like that. He's really intimidating and really intense throughout the whole film, but also got that Tom Cruise charm about him where like he sort of leads you into a little bit of a false sense of security. Then throughout the film, it starts like unraveling that this guy's like a complete psychopath, basically. I don't know, man. Like, I know this is like an out there choice, but I just think this role it might not be the best Tom Cruise film, but I think it's one of the best Tom Cruise performances overall in his career.
I would totally agree, mate. I'm a massive fan of Collateral. As you know, it was in my top 10. It wasn't my number one choice, but it was in the top 10. And I've obviously ditched it just for the, to get the matchups and stuff. But yeah, I totally agree with absolutely everything you say. I think it's one of his best performances. I don't know why he wasn't nominated for this over the other stuff that he was nominated for. He plays against tight. He should do it more often because I think he has this. He's got this maniacal quality, Tom Cruise, in real life. Like, he's got this almost uneasy intensity about him. And I think when he harnesses it the way he has in Collateral, playing as Vincent, it makes for a really, like, magnetic viewing. It's like, he's very intimidating. Yeah, he just commands the screen a little bit. The grey hair and stuff, so it's very distinct, very distinctive. It's not his best. He kind of makes it work because he's Tom Cruise, but it's not his best look. So I think that was a clever move to make him not look as like poster boyish. It also blends in with the character. He wears a grey suit, grey hair. He's trying to look like a hitman who people don't remember. Like, if he does get if someone sees him and witnesses him doing it, they're not going to struggle to give you any kind of distinguishing features about him. I think he's just awesome. Like you say, the way it works with the whole. He does lay into false insecurity. There's just enough charm. He just dials in. He's got that in abundance, Tom Cruise, but he just gives you enough of it. And then towards the end of the film, you see a little bit of insecurity from him as well. You start to almost see the chips. You start without any backstory. You start to kind of. He gives a backstory halfway through, doesn't he, about his dad not being around and stuff. But you kind of think how much of that is just to try and throw Jamie Foxx off. But all the best lies usually have a bit of truth in them. So you think, all right, okay, so I understand this. This guy has got problems from youth. He's probably got abandonment issues. I love when they do that in films. They don't really spell it out for you. They just let you piece the backstory together. But yeah, he's like a guy that's not had a lot of love in his life. He's not had the kind of the nurture and the kind of guidance, I don't think, from anyone. And
I just think the way he manipulates. Yeah, the way he's manipulating Jamie Foxx in the taxi is great. It's just it's very like you said, saying about he's going on about his past and stuff like that. But it's like
he's kind of projecting that onto Jamie. He's projecting his own insecurities onto Jamie Foxx, and it's just subtle enough, but it's obvious. But it's just a great character piece, like you say, and it just works for me. I think the interplay between the two of them. It's great, and it's it's almost like a buddy cop film in a weird way.
Almost.
Totally. There's always an uneasy alliance, but at times, Tom Cruise is a better person for having Jamie Foxx, for knowing Jamie Foxx for that length of time, and definitely Jamie Foxx ends up a better person from having Vincent or Tom Cruise's character basically set a fire under him and tell him you are wasting your life, mate.
He sorts him out a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
He turns him into a hero. He pushes him too far to the point where he actually stops Tom Cruise.
And I think that's it's a really interesting take. I think to have that and I think only someone like Tom Cruise could do that, because if it was someone who was typecast as a villain that we've seen in so many villain roles, you wouldn't really latch on or buy onto that whole dynamic.
The relationship, you wouldn't believe that there's just enough likability about Vincent. He's obviously acting at the beginning. He's trying to win the guy's trust, but it's so believable that the best lies are ones that are based on truth. So it's kind of he's this guy's got the potential to be a decent guy, and that's what he's drawn on. He's kind of using it to win these people over so he can get the job done. But you can't do that successfully unless you've got it in you for real, kind of thing. So Vincent's kind of likable, and he's so clinical. It's kind of funny, and you've got to admire his skill set. I think Tom Cruise worked with all these close protection guys and stuff to learn how to handle weapons, and the way he takes out those guys at the halfway point is amazing. It's a good when he shoots the guys in the alley. Unbelievable.
It's brilliant.
And
I like the scene in the club as well.
The the cinematography's bang on. The castings are all good. Like, you care about some of the side characters as well. Like, you feel the weight of Mark Ruffalo being shot because he's a good guy trying to do the right thing, and he's Jamie Foxx's lifeline, and then he gets done in.
Yeah.
But you also almost understand it from Tom Cruise. You know that there's no malice in it. He was just Tom Cruise was just doing his thing. Like,
it's a weird one. It's such a weird one. Like, it's you're rooting for him, but not rooting for him. Would you go as far to call him an anti-hero? I don't.
An anti-hero, yeah. He borders it. By the end, he's like full on, like Jason, Michael Myers, like hunting them down kind of thing. He's blooded and he looks a bit scary. But
there's been a progression to get to that point.
Yeah, at the end, it's that whole like, you're kind of like, just when you're thinking, nah, he's a psychopath. He's a maniacal psychopath, and then what happens to him at the end reminds you of the insecurity, and then you almost in the turn of it, like in the flick of a light switch, you actually feel sorry. You're like sad that that's what's happened to him. Like,
at the end. Totally.
So it's like, and only like an actor like Tom Cruise, I think, or of his pedigree, could pull that off. Could get those emotions out of the viewer. So I do think it's worthy of. I understand why it's in your. It's a great film, a great performance. So I understand why you put it as your number one, mate. I definitely
don't get me wrong. It's not one that I rewatch all the time. Want to go back to forever, but I just think as like just his performance alone and his progression in it is just like, you're already like, he's just not the atypical hero, and I think I like that for Tom Cruise. It's like, it's a breath of fresh air when he's playing a character like this. Yeah. It's great, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
And Michael Mann for the win, man.
Yeah, Michael Mann for the win all the time. So Mission Impossible Fallout might seem like an easy commercial choice. However, I was just I looked at it and went, what have I been watching most recently? What do I watch all the time? What do I put on and I feel thrilled by from beginning to end? And like, it's difficult, Mission Impossible, because to be honest, I see it as one big thing. Like, you can easily just pick right at number one, number two. It's the Mission Impossible franchise, because I like elements of them all, as we've kind of discussed throughout. But Fallout is the creme de la creme of them all, and Dead Reckoning is probably going to beat it again. Looking at the way that they trend, which might make that watching this in another year's time might make my top choice seem like a bit silly. But I'm just putting that in as like, what is my most enjoyable Tom Cruise romp? It's probably Mission Impossible Fallout. The production value of it, it's in my wheelhouse. I grew up being a massive Bond fan. As I say, this is American Bond. I would actually go as far as to say I now enjoy Mission Impossible more than Bond. I think Mission Impossible is more Bond than Bond. Like,
it took over the franchise for me. Like, if we're just like on a purely basis, Daniel Craig era of Bond,
which I love. I love the Daniel Craig era of Bond. Yeah,
I know, man. Like, but I just through that middle point, I think after Skyfall, for me, that's like Skyfall was like the pinnacle of like that Craig era. It sort of dipped off after that for me. But Mission Impossible, it's just gone up and up and up with every entry. Like, my personal favorite out of the bunch is actually Rogue Nation, but Fallout isn't like that far behind. I think Fallout's got the way better third act. It's got the best third act out the whole franchise. 100%. 100%. And like, I love the fact that he's up against Henry Cavill, who's like obviously way bigger than he is, and it's just like that difference of like, like
it's a great pairing, and the fact that they start off as like an uneasy alliance, and then it goes full on like.
Yeah, I think you can see it's coming a mile away, like that.
Yeah, but I don't think it's right. Yeah, like, because I remember Chris McQuarrie saying that, like, people criticising it, saying, "Oh, you can see the twist coming a mile away with Henry Cavill," and his response was, "He's like, did you not see his tash? Like, that's a bad." He's like, that's a bad guy tash." Like, that.
Say no more.
I gave him the tash so he would look like a bad guy. Like, I wasn't trying to like. It wasn't a twist. Like, it's obvious from the beginning he's the bad guy. That's why he's got the tash. Man. But like, so I thought that was quite funny and totally on the money. But yeah, Sorry, mate.
I was just about to say the bathroom scene in Fallout is like one of the best scenes across the whole Mission Impossible franchise. And it didn't involve Tom Cruise jumping off the Grand Canyon with a parachute. It was just Henry Cavill, Tom Cruise, and I can't remember the other actor, but just that whole bathroom fight scene. Like Tom Cruise is getting chucked about all over. I don't think he lands a punch. He just gets chucked
as well.
over.
There's moments of brevity in it and like, you know, comedy in it as well. You know,
Yeah, totally. Where he's loading his gun.
It's a great scene, and you know, like, just the circumstance stuff in Mission Impossible is good. You know, I love Mission Impossible's best when they're trying to do something impossible, and it becomes even more impossible, like by unfortunate circumstance. You know, like Henry Cavill whacks the laptop off the guy. He's like, "I've sorted it out for you, mate." And he's like, "No, you just screwed the whole mission. Like, we're gonna have to we'll have to think on my feet here," kind of thing. So that's the most fun and exhilarating bits about Mission Impossible for me. But yeah, great villain, great set pieces, doesn't let down in either act. I think I love them all. I love Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol, them all. But I feel they all slow at times, and they all have moments where it's kind of like, I could do something just to get the thrill levels up there all the way through Fallout. Whereas I feel like the other ones dip in and out, kind of thing.
Rogue Nation definitely falls apart in the very last act. Like, it just doesn't do anything really. They just
forgettable. The last act's just totally forgettable.
He falls down a drain, and that's how they catch him. Basically,
supposed to be excited about that.
Yeah, but like that's one thing I've got to say it because Badger will kill me if I don't say it. Sean Harris, who plays the villain in both Rogue Nation and Fallout. Like, he's obviously captured in Fallout, but that guy, man, I wish he had a bigger role in them two films and they gave him slightly more to do because he's so intense. Like, he whispers everything he says. Like, I love it. It's brilliant. Sean Harris is class. Yeah, man.
Apparently, he was really reluctant to come back and do the sequel. They had to really convince him to come back and do it. He's just not somebody he's not into franchises or sequels in general.
No.
They had to really convince him that there would be worth to him coming back narratively and whatnot, and something in it for him. Which I think there was. He doesn't really get used all that much in the first one. He definitely gets a little bit more to do in the second one. But I'm sure he found something to do with the paycheck he got for it right enough. But
absolutely, yeah.
He's a good actor. He definitely had something to it. But yeah. So what we're saying, I think, like, if someone said to me, like, I'd never seen like a Tom Cruise movie before, an alien came out of the planet, mate, and went, right, who's this Tom Cruise lad? I'd be like, let's go and watch Fallout, mate. Take it from there. Like, that's kind of.
I think you're right. Because if you're looking at both these films, like Collateral again isn't for everyone, where Fallout is for everyone and the aliens. So I think it's got to be Fallout, man.
Can just imagine that on like the 4K Blu-ray of it, like quote. Fallout is for everyone and the aliens. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, man.
Well, I would see. So I was just trying to summarise, but I think it's an amazing mainstream entry movie for Tom Cruise. You can then branch out to whatever. But if I was going down the whole kind of like more critical, I would be leaning towards Collateral. For all, I think we just gave it. I think we explained ourselves enough there. We're like Tom Cruise doesn't in Mission Impossible, barring MI3, he has nothing to do as an actor other than
and it frustrates me a little bit.
Other than literally hang off of planes and learn how to fly.
Oh yeah,
that can't be dismissed. But as an actor, he doesn't have to do much. He just has to look a bit exasperated, a bit out of puff, and that's about it. You know, like, because it's that kind of film. So that's the only thing that lets down that choice is like the top film. You're not going to see any of his acting chops whatsoever. From like,
if we're going highbrow, it's Collateral all day long. But if we're going for the masses, it's got to be Fallout.
Yeah. What do you think then?
Shit. This is where the comments need to come in, man.
I know. Actually, raging in the comments. I don't understand.
Should we go Fallout? Should we just make it easy? Then we won't. Or do you want to go Collateral? That looks like a face that wants to go Collateral, man.
Does a little bit. I've got them both. I feel like if we picked Fallout and then I'm like, and you can win yourself a Fallout, it feels totally rigged.
It'll suit it, man. It goes in tandem with the video. My
This
heart's
wasn't
saying
pre-planned.
Collateral, my head's
Right,
saying Fallout.
Yeah. See, I kind of feel that's where I am. The head's saying, like, the heart's saying Collateral. Yeah, like, got a bit of everything. Acting, it's different. It's not seen as much. It's, it's thrilling. It's dangerous. It's got some of the action that, like, he's famous for. Like, all right, he's not jumping off planes and all that, but he handles weapons. There's even a bit of classic Tom Cruise running in there. He handles weapons very satisfyingly and very realistically.
Yeah, 100%.
Which
Rebecca Ferguson's not in Collateral though. It's a bit of a downer.
That's a very good point. Right, I say we go. We've got the Dead Reckoning trailer to watch and react to. Right, so
what?
I think we should maybe end. I think if our hearts are saying Collateral, maybe we should say Collateral.
I think right, okay. Go with your heart, man. Go with your heart.
Are you happy with that?
I'll say Collateral.
Right, let's do it. Right, we're going to say so. You know what? The more I think about this, for our tastes, because ultimately that's what this is. It's our top 10 shootout.
Yeah.
Not that we don't. I think it's clear we both love Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Love Fallout. Love it.
I think we both had Collateral in our top 3, didn't we? Individually.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go with Collateral. So it's ElectricGeek and Total Movie Recall's top recommendation cruise film is. I still feel uncomfortable. Collateral. Don't like that. I rate it so highly. I do have it on 4K. So there we go. I do actually own this as well, and I'm not giving that away. So maybe that tells you something. I'm not willing to part with Collateral. So there you go. Watch Collateral on 4K. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Watch
man.
it in general. It's a very, very good movie, and probably one that goes under the radar a little bit. But yeah, Fallout is amazing. It's my favourite Mission Impossible film, and it's probably maybe Maverick will take it in time because I've not got it at home yet to watch it again because I did think it was fantastic. But yeah, on the blockbuster scene, Maverick and Fallout are definitely the two. If you want to just be amazed by what Tom Cruise can produce, I would say Fallout and Top Gun Maverick. Yourself, any final thoughts, mate, before we kind of round off?
No, that's it. I'm looking forward to watching Maverick again. I want to know where that ranks, in my overall sort of Tom Cruise list on Letterboxd, should we say? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it seems like it's took so long for that film to come out. By the way, Maverick on physical media.
Apparently, it's just because it's doing so well at the box office. So it's
it's just past Avengers, one of the Avengers films, box office.
Yeah, the minute they bring out the physical or the digital, then it's going to kill the momentum of the box office, and obviously it's good for cinemas. Apparently Cineworld is going into receivership, which is
I just read that. Yeah.
I can't believe we're in that. I know it was COVID and everything. I'm hoping it's just the temporary. What do you call it? The temporary kind of effects, the kind of the aftermath of COVID, and it's a temporary thing. But a bit me worries that it is the end of cinema. It's not a temporary thing. It's streaming and all that is actually. It's hard enough for me to take that streaming is killing mainstream physical media, but killing the actual cinema is
that's
hard to take, man. That's not a good place.
I don't think physical media is totally on its arse as the general consensus is when it comes to it. It's all these premium editions and stuff like that. If I'm being totally honest, it's only since I've had my Instagram channel that I've been going buying stupid premium sets and stuff like that for films that but I've always been a collector, but I've just went out and bought the bog standard Blu-ray. Do you know what I mean? That's always been enough for me.
But that's
it takes quite a lot.
These didn't exist before, didn't they? They're trying. The market's changing, so they're realizing we don't have as many people doing this anymore because the majority will go with streaming and whatnot. But we still have a collector's market, but we don't have the so before it was it's cool. Give them a Blu-ray and a DVD. Maybe give them a steelbook, Max. and like we'll get the numbers because hundreds of people will buy it. Now it's like, right, not everyone's buying this, so there's still enough people buying it, but let's try and maximize that profit by giving them something that's like, 50 quid. That because the people that are still buying Blu-rays are the diehards that are in there to the death. They'll give you the 50 quid for the box set if it's done well, if it's for a film that they like. So going on a tangent there about physical media.
Sorry.
I'm going to do a video on that, by the way, about
all right, cool.
why I still do it and the state of physical media. I was just trying to kind of get a body of work out there first before I start getting into that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll be doing a video like that in the near future. So if you are teased by that conversation, don't worry, it'll be coming. But right, mate, thanks very much for helping me. We're not finished yet, but thanks very much for helping me with top 10. I think we've done not bad.
No worries,
I'm going to go through it and just list it off now. What we've got for anyone that's just joining late. So number 10, we had a battle between Cocktail and Legend. We went easy with Cocktail, wasn't it? Aye. So number 10 was Cocktail. Yeah. Number 9 was a battle of the underrated MI movies, and after indulging in a lot of nostalgia, we ended up going with MI2, which I think was what people wanted in the comments. I think we got that one right, mate.
I'm so happy about that. That's like
I'm kind of happy about it. I think it's the choice. So that's like two. That's one each on that. So that was like an Ellis and an Andy movie. Then we went on to number 8, Valkyrie versus Jack Reacher, and did we go Valkyrie in that one? I think we did, didn't we?
Valkyrie on that one, yeah.
2-1 to Andy. Then it was number 7. It was the Battle of Spielberg because it was Minority Report and War of the Worlds, and I thought I was going to fight you to the death, mate, over Minority Report, but we ended up going with War of the Worlds. So you sold that one to me. So it was War of the Worlds on that one. Number 6 was the battle that was Crow versus Crow. So it was Jerry Maguire versus Vanilla Sky. Did we go Vanilla Sky again?
I think we did, yeah.
We did, just because it was like probably a bit more underrated, and
you can talk about it slightly longer.
We'd leave you with more. Yeah, it would leave you with more to think about than like the one-shot Jerry Maguire film, which is still a great film. But if you want something that's a bit more thought-provoking and a bit more mentally challenging, shall we say, then Vanilla Sky is worth a watch. Number 5 was Tom versus the Titans. So it was Tom Cruise goes up against Paul Newman in Colour of Money and Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. And as much Ellis hadn't seen Colour of Money, so it's a bit more difficult to do that one. But I felt like I shared my love with Colour of Money. I shared my love for Colour of Money with you all, but I couldn't deny that A Few Good Men, like, how could you not pick A Few Good Men for that scene? It's so iconic. There's nothing in Colour of Money that like can go toe-to-toe with that courtroom scene at the end of A Few Good Men. So A Few Good Men won that one. And number 5. And number 4, it was best dramas, best kind of highbrow drama, shall we call it. And that was both 1989 movies. So it was Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut. And I think we went with Eyes Wide Shut, didn't we?
Yeah. I think it's similar reasons to the Cameron Crowe category. Yeah. It's like a film that sort of lingers with you a little bit longer, I would say. Raises more questions. Maybe that's not like,
you could almost like, yeah, it's like one of these parts, Magnolia, and if you could just, you only need to see the Tom Cruise sections almost if you're coming at it from a Tom Cruise point of view to see his performance.
Magnolia is such an ensemble like film, like it's an ensemble cast,
and it's very like kind of highbrow and what would you say, thematic, and it's left your own interpretation. So not for everyone. Eyes Wide Shut, maybe more of an engaging. I guess I wouldn't say it appeals to the masses, but it appeals to the masses more potentially than Magnolia would, I would say. So yeah, a kind of forgotten gem to bookend it in Stanley Kubrick's career in Eyes Wide Shut. Was the number 4. Number 3 was Battle of the Best Sci-Fi, and that was Oblivion and Edge of Tomorrow. And I think we quickly established that Edge of Tomorrow is the better film, although honourable mention to Oblivion. Joseph Kosinski made a fantastic production. It borrows from everything, but in the end doesn't have the heart that Edge of Tomorrow has and the watchability that Edge of Tomorrow has. Unless you're a Pixel people, you might enjoy Oblivion more, but that was number 3. Ellis, you're absolutely romping me here. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At this point, it's 6-2. So I've now lost.
6-2.
That's what happens. So at number 2, it was the Top Guns. What's the best Top Gun? So again, we decided to go with Maverick. I think it is the all-round better film. It's just proper, kind of blows you away, doesn't it? 86 is aged a little bit, but it's still classic, and you can't deny the cultural phenomenon that it was. We've acknowledged that. It's got a bit of soundtrack, and of course you wouldn't have the second to the first, so maybe people will always go with the original, which I totally get, but I think you and I were just amazed with what we've seen at the cinema. So Top Gun Maverick came in at number 2, and then lastly, which is a bit of a strange pairing, but it was Mission Impossible Fallout versus Collateral, and it's now 7-2 at this point. Ellis, just want to point out to you. So, like, at number 1, it was my favourite blockbuster, basically, of the Mission Impossible franchise. It's a kind of like, if you've just come off a spaceship on Earth, and you want to know about Tom Cruise, you want to jump in on point, I would suggest Fallout. Great popcorn blockbuster movie. But from a kind of perspective of it has everything, and it's like a really intense performance from Collateral, which again kind of goes under the radar and maybe doesn't get enough love. Ellis brought Collateral to the fore, which I also had in my top 3 individually. And after kind of tuning out there, didn't we decided that Collateral was probably the winner and more in keeping with our tastes.
Yeah.
So that's the top 10. That's the top 10, folks. Let me know. We can't look at the comments, but I'm going to keep persevering.
I can't wait to see what the comments are saying.
I know. I'm looking forward to watch. That's really kind of myself. Again, really sorry about that. I don't know why it's happened, but I hope you've enjoyed what you've watched so far. So that's the top 10. You happy with it, Ellis? I don't know why I'm calling you
Over the moon with it, mate. 7 points there, that'll do me.
Just remember that when I come over to your channel to be accommodate. Let me have all the picks. All right. Honourable mentions very quickly. I'm going to run out of battery again, so I always do this. What we do? Oh, just the fact we'll leave honourable mentions because we've not got time to discuss them.
We'll
quickly jump into the Dead Reckoning trailer, and then we'll sign off it there.
Days of fighting for the so-called greater good are over. This is our chance to control the truth, the concepts of right and wrong for everyone for centuries to come. You're fighting to save an ideal that doesn't exist. Never did. You need to pick a side.
That's how you do a trailer.
How good's the music, man? Like the evolution of that music is so good. We've come a long way from Limp Bizkit.
Oh, it's still Limp Bizkit's still got its place, man. Anyway, so I'm just going to run out of battery because this is a tradition on the ElectricGeek live streams. So in like 30 seconds, mate, thoughts on Dead Reckoning?
I'm really looking forward to it, man. It gives me a similar like vibe to the previous films. It gives me more of a vibe to Rogue Nation for some reason. But it It looks phenomenal. I just caught in that slight second. I think there's like a scene with Rebecca Ferguson coming on a bridge and she take a sword, like a sword out. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that beforehand, but that's got me all hot and bothered. But yeah, man, great trailer. Can't wait to watch it. This is part 1, isn't it? There's a part 2 that's coming out as well. Dead Reckoning part 2. So yeah, man, it looks great. I hope they use that updated score in the actual movie. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it looks great. I think like everything you said. But what I'll add to it is like being a big Bond fan, I'm loving the like For Your Eyes Only vibes from the Yellow Beetle. Like that's got to be a nod.
Yes,
to Bond.
yeah.
I love that, and there's also a weird like the Mummy vibe to it. Do you know what I think? The whole like Tom Cruise and horseback.
Little bit.
Like, is it the return of like Mummy Cruise? Like,
yeah.
You know,
I like whoever the guy looks with the villain with the glasses and like the smoke mask. He looks great. He's got like a grey hair. And I'm like,
it looks
like,
like that. It looks a bit like Michael Martin Sheen, I think. I
little bit, yeah.
I don't think it is him though, but it looks a bit like him.
I really want them to establish like a really good villain in like these next 2 films.
That's,
you know what I mean?
That's what Mission Impossible's always been lacking a little bit, hasn't it? Like no real proper iconic Bond level villains. Some great acts. There's been some good ones, but they just don't have like anything visual about them. That's like Henry Cavill's probably been the closest with like his physique and the big tash and all that. And then Bond, I suppose it comes at the end, but he ends up with like almost like a Bond villain, like
yes, he does.
Doesn't he? So that's pretty good. But anyway, we better kind of wrap up there. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, folks. I'll have a look at them when I come off stream. I'm excited for Mission Impossible as much as Ellis and I'll certainly be seeing it, and I'll be seeing it in IMAX, that's for sure. But yeah, thanks very much for coming on, Ellis. I've really enjoyed.
Thanks for having me, mate. Long time coming.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long time coming. It's been fun shooting out the top 10, and I'm always up for talking about Tom Cruise. I'm a bit of a fanboy, so I like all these films, folks. Just remember that those are just like the bespoke Ellis and Andy picks. So hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry about the issues with the comments. I don't know what that's all about. I'll look into it and try and sort it for the next time. Remember, you can still win the Mission Impossible 4K. Just hit up the comments anyway, even after the video is posted, like the replay. Just hit it up with the hashtag Fallout. I'll do the wheel of names, pick names in a hat, and I'll get it out to the winner. All right, thanks again. Remember, Ellis, give him some love. There's links in the description for him. You can find his Instagram and YouTube below. But yeah, Ellis, thanks so much for coming on, mate. I've really enjoyed it. We'll definitely do another one in the future.
I've loved it, mate.
And hopefully I can come across and debut on the
absolutely
the channel.
Yeah, man. I just iron out the creaks a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Right, okay. Thanks very much for tuning in. I've been Andy ElectricGeek.
Total Movie Recall. Cheers.
And we'll see you again where we can actually hopefully talk to you next time. Until then,
yeah, man.
Catch you later.
See you later.